All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the monthly voting meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission for Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. Welcome, everyone, whether you're joining us in the City Hall chamber, online, or on ACC TV. Just a programming note, this will be our June voting meeting. We will have another meeting in 2 weeks, June 15th. Because we have a few items to take up then that normally happen June 1st, but given the busyness and activity of the year are getting pushed to then. So that includes charter officer contracts, the FY22 budget, and a couple of other brief items. We also will be virtually gathering with homeless service providers tomorrow afternoon. That's on the calendar at accgov.com. And then we'll be having an in-person work session this Thursday afternoon. And then our normally scheduled work session next Tuesday, the 8th. And then following the June 15th meeting, we'll be taking a hiatus as a full body until July 20th. So something long planned and much necessary, I think, for everybody. We have several items tonight, but none more important than our roll call. So I'm going to ask Clerk Spratlin if she can call roll for us.
Davenport.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Blink.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Denson.
Here.
Poole.
Present.
Edwards.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton. Handy. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Clerk Spratlin. Next order of business is to approve minutes of meetings of Tuesday, May 4th, Tuesday, May 11th, Tuesday, May 18th, Monday, May 24th, and Tuesday, May 25th. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved. Second.
All right. Have a motion from Commissioner Edwards. Have a second from Commissioner Davenport. All in favor of approval of those minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, minutes are approved. All right. Are there any written communications, Madam Clerk?
No, we have none tonight. Thank you.
All right. I do want to please enter into the record a couple of appointments. The first set of appointments is for the Judicial Facility Site Selection Committee. And those members are Commissioner Davenport, who will be the chair, David Sweat, Deborah Lonan, Talkie Yamanchili, John Vodika, and Denny Gallus. Also have two reappointments to the Athens Housing Authority Board, Valden Daniel and Jacqueline Eskew. And finally, the appointment of Hollis Terry as the alternate member from Athens-Clarke County for the Upper Oconee Watershed Basin Authority. We will have several opportunities for public input tonight. This is our third opportunity for public input for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights trial. We will then have planning and zoning public input individually for each one of those items. We will then have public input on old, new, and consent business, and then general input on any item not on the agenda, of which we just have one. So again, as I just noted, tonight is the third public hearing on the proposed FY22 budget as required by the Taxpayer Bill of Rights passed by the Georgia General Assembly in 1999. We will have this as an item on our work session next Tuesday to finalize some of the numbers following the work sessions that we've already had on the budget. And again, final budget approval will be June 15th. I do believe I have two who were scheduled online. I have one of those individuals here. And then after getting the first one, Robin Whetstone from online, we will go ahead and move to the chamber. Robin, you're here with us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, that's great. I will not use all 3 minutes. I wanted to say that I've been really pleased with the press that efforts with Lenontown have received. You know, the apology and the discussion of reparations. I've seen that in the news recently. USA Today, there was a long article about how that effort, that grassroots effort, is really being used as a model for other communities who are exploring equity and redress for, years and years of Jim Crow situations. And it made me think that passing a living wage, passing a $15 an hour minimum wage would be a similar thing. It seems like our town is being looked at as kind of a pioneer or kind of a town that does brave and innovative things. And I just encourage us to continue in that vein by making that our first order of business, making sure that the people who we say are essential workers are paid and treated as if they were essential workers, because so many other things will follow from having a livable wage. And I wanted to give you my support for that and just encourage you to please continue talking about that and looking into that. So that's it.
Thank you, Robin. We appreciate that. All right, we are going to go ahead and move to any in-person comment regarding the budget in the chamber. Anyone who's here to speak to the budget, you can step right up to the mic and staff will assist.
Should I keep my mask on?
You can,
Okay.
Just give us your name and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Richard Dean Winfield. I'm president of the Alliance for Social Bill of Rights. I also wanted to speak in support of the Athens-Clarke County government setting an example as a model employer by paying a fair minimum wage. But I wanted to offer 3 critical points regarding the proposal. Whatever the figure is for a fair minimum wage, it has to incorporate 2 features to prevent it from falling further and further behind what is required to provide for decent living on the part of an employee. It has to have built into it inflation protection with an annual adjustment to make up for any inflation that occurs. Secondly, it has to have an adjustment to keep pace with the growing productivity of the nation, so that as our national wealth increases, all boats rise, so that we put a cap on the increasing income and wealth inequality that plagues us. If these 2 adjustments had been made on the minimum wage as it stands nationally, it would have already reached $22 an hour. Now, even according to Fox News in Atlanta, a $15 an hour minimum wage is a poverty wage. It is not a living wage. It is not enough to make ends meet, and the government itself indicates you need at least $20 an hour. If you look at the study that our government made of the wages paid to employees, you'll see that there are very few job categories where people are making less than $15 an hour. And there are not that many where people are making less than $20 an hour. It is not unaffordable to raise the floor to $20 an hour. And I want you to remember that not that long ago, the city government paid several $1 million to raise the wages of the most highly paid city workers. I think we don't have to be cheap. We can set a national standard with a $20 an hour minimum wage here in Athens. And well, if it has to be $15 an hour, that's a decent start. It should go in place immediately, not be something where we have to wait another 10 years for it to gradually be implemented. We should raise the floor to a decent level right away. And I hope you will also be considering having proper benefits for our employees, such as the kind of paid leave that you see instituted in most other nations. So I hope you will take all of these matters into consideration. Not only can we treat our employees with respect, but we can set a standard that will have a lot of national importance, symbolic importance. And I think we don't have to settle for 15. We can go for 20. And you can be those path breakers who set the real standard.
Thank you, Dr. Winfield.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other input on the budget for FY22?
Hey, good evening. Broderick Flanagan, 243 Sunset Drive, Athens, Georgia. Want to speak briefly to the budget, but also the need of participatory budgeting in future budgets. Hopefully it can show up in this budget cycle. I was part of the group that helped to survey part of the community out in Rolling Ridge when they were trying to get the participatory budgeting process started. And, you know, it pains me that I don't really see it reflected in this year's FY22 budget because whenever you get people's hopes up about being able to participate and engage in local government and local processes like that, you end up re-traumatizing people over and over again. Similar thing happened like when you put citizen advisory committees together to try to negotiate community benefits agreements with developers. A lot of times the developer doesn't have any incentive to really listen to, or the citizens don't have much leverage in order to have the developer or contractor adhere to the needs and the wants of the community. One suggestion that I would have to remedy that would be to institute participatory budgeting so that community members can have funds to implement things like subsidizing wages for the exploitation of labor that happens on a lot of these project work sites. That conversation was brought up in a recent conversation I was in with Paul Kramer regarding the arena. And it was hard to get a read on where they stood on that process, but they kept referencing the MIT wage calculator, which is definitely not enough to really to sustain a family. A single person might be able to survive off $14 an hour. But I believe Paul Kramer actually is going by $11.60. I don't know if he realizes that the MIT wage calculation has gone up recently. And so when you're trying to negotiate those type of things in that space, it becomes increasingly difficult. And so trying to find some way to use budgetary funds for the community to be able to do things of that nature, I think would be helpful. Also with the prosperity package, I think there was about $2 million or $3 million left right before the pandemic hit. That was still unused funding. I hope that funding is replaced and replenished and can go towards supporting things like the Worker Center and wages and other things in the community. I know you cannot mandate wage increases for the private sector, but there are creative ways I think we can, as a community, address some of these needs. So that is my hope. Also, as much as you can, support any youth programs, including creating jobs in that space as well, like bringing back the JTPS program or the KTS program, some of those teen job opportunities that are sorely needed for our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Broderick. Others speaking to the budget.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay, Stephanie Flores at 290 South Rock Spring Street. I just want to first echo what Dr. Winfield and Mr. Flanagan have just spoken to with respect, especially to supporting minimum wage of $20 an hour, adjusting for inflation, as well as participatory budgeting and investment in youth programs, and particularly youth pipeline, youth job programs. I also wanted to speak to the wealth inequality that both Broderick and Dr. Winfield had mentioned via our story. I work as a neighborhood leader with Family Connections, Communities, and Schools, primarily with Spanish speaking, with immigrant populations. And so I kind of work all across Athens. And there's one person in particular that I'm working with. The story is like fairly jarring. She's a single mother who's working 40 hours a week and spending just as much as she does on housing, on childcare. So basically probably 90% of her income, if there is that 90% to even put towards, goes towards just surviving. And she is a single mom of a young daughter, so has no other support system. And she works for a company in Athens. And so, yeah, y'all can say, or the local government can say that they have no sway or they have no power when it comes to that private market. But when this happens in Athens, this is the responsibility of all the people in Athens to address, including the mayor and commission, our local government. And so what the narrative highlights is the need for racial and economic justice for people of color and of varying documentation statuses in Athens, to where I think a worker center can have a capacity to address the inequities that allow for vulnerable populations to be exploited for their labor here in Athens, Georgia. And so the business is the Athens Stone Casting, and she's making like $8.50 an hour. And so well below even the MIT standard, which is already well below the calculation of what it needs to be in Athens. And so here we have this person living in one of the most progressive cities in the state of Georgia, who literally cannot make ends meet, and there are no protections for her. So we need to invest in the infrastructure, as Broderick said, get creative, that decreases the need for connections to diapers and food and financial supports. I met her through a fund that was giving financial support because she had to apply for financial support to be able to make her rent. And so that shouldn't be the case. People should just be able to make enough money to where they can afford that childcare, can afford that housing, even if it is consistently rising and also becoming unaffordable, but that they can afford these needs, and not just these needs to survive, but they can also thrive beyond that and become, participants in our Athens economy. So just wanted to say that, and I hope that y'all will consider supporting funding a worker center to try to address those inequities, and thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
My name is Jill Crandall, and I'm rather nervous. I shouldn't be here. My husband, Paul Heald, would be, but he's out of town. So anyway, he rotated off the Athens Area Homeless Shelter Board in 2011, and Shay reached out to him to come and speak tonight. And he wanted me to emphasize the work that the homeless shelter does with women and children and getting people rehoused, very important thing. And the fact that we need to be in someone's budget. Grants are great, but they're unreliable, unlike the need for housing. To my knowledge, the shelter, since it's been open, has never been empty, and usually is oversubscribed and there's a waiting list. I think in 2018, 2019, like 1,000 children came through the shelter system in one way or another. Without the shelter, you would have the city taking up all sorts of those needs and having to pay for them. This is an ongoing need and should be in the city budget in some way, shape, or form. There needs to be ongoing and reliable funding for the amazing job that Shay does getting people housed and out of that system. So I'm here to say, please put the homeless shelter in as a permanent line item. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
And right on the heels of Jill, I don't know if you can see my sign.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kalisa Langford. And if you didn't catch that, there were 1,000 homeless children that were identified by Clarke County school system for the 2019-2020 school year. And typically when we think about people that are homeless, we think about that individual that's downtown with a sign asking for money. And for certain, that does comprise a portion of the homeless population here in Athens. However, the vast majority are families with children. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart because in 2017, I was one of those families. I was living as many families do at the In-Town Suites on Millage Avenue, and I ran out of money. So I called all the local shelters. There are 3 here. That's the Salvation Army, Interfaith, which is now Family Promise, and Athens Area Homeless Shelter. They were full, and they stay full, as she just mentioned. So it was the last day in the shelter, and I'm packing my belongings and physically and emotionally preparing to live in my car with my 4-year-old. And I got a call from Interfaith. They said, we want to interview you to see if it's a good fit. Can you come down? And I was like, sure. Went down, interviewed. It was a good fit. They took me in that day. And I stayed there for the duration of the time. It might have been 6 months. And if you're familiar with that particular shelter, you move every week. A church puts you up for 7 days. You stay 7 days. You move on Sunday, move into another church. And it was tough, but I was grateful for the fact that I did not have to live in my car. Through a program called Rapid Rehousing, I was able to find an apartment here in Athens, and I had support for rent and utilities. In fact, I still live in that apartment, 245 China Street. And then I went on to actually be employed by Family Promise, and I was a service director for the shelter. I got to help homeless families and see another side of what goes on. We're doing great work here in Athens. However, that work takes money. And when I asked Shay, I was like, Shay, you know, how much money do you think? She was a couple $100,000. And I was like, yeah, that's nice. But I tell people I am the daughter of a Baptist preacher, and I don't have a problem asking for money. We need more money than that. But the ask is specific. Like, we'll take $1 million. You know, if you could throw $500,000 our way, that would be fine. But not just the money. Targeted money. Sitting down and having conversations with people that are doing work with boots on the ground. Not just another program, not another position, but asking people that are doing the work, how can we help you? It's that whole ask not what your country can do for you. So I'm asking a very specific ask to help homeless families in Athens as I have been helped. Please let that be a line item in your budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalisa. Anyone else here to speak to the budget? All right. So this closes our Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing, and we're going to move forward into the agenda. Do need to note item 23 has been removed from the agenda as it is incomplete. Documentation has not been finalized for that. And so we're going to move into the first segment of our agenda, which is planning and zoning. And the first item is a request from W. Charles Ross for FAE Clarke LLC for rezoning from AR to RS8, approximately 233 acres on Old Elberton Road. So is there anyone in the chamber to speak to that agenda item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm Charles Ross on behalf of FAE Clarke. Before I get started, I do need to just place on the record that before the meeting started, we did deliver a copy of our constitutional rights assertion to Ms. Spratlin's office. Earlier today, the property owner, Mr. Tumlin, I believe, reached out to Commissioner Davenport asking if we could table this matter to reconsider dropping to the 40 house or the 40 property development. And that's be our ask at this time, Mr. Mayor.
And so that would be a request for withdrawal?
No, not at this time. We're asking that we have a little more time to discuss. We have not had an opportunity to meet with Commissioner Davenport about a new suggestion of moving to the 40 house over the entire development and to see about redesigning that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Anyone else here to speak to the Old Elberton Road project, number 1 on our agenda? Evening.
Good evening. My name is Hardy Edwards. I live at 505 Lem Edwards Road. I'm a Athens-Clarke County, Winterville native. I own a little over 500 acres surrounding this property, and along with about 500 acres of rented land, I farm around 1,000 acres in the Winterville area. This property in question in 2018, 2019, I actually farmed it. It has about 200 acres of prime cropland on it, very good soils, very productive. This property is clearly in the Greenbelt. This commission formed the Greenbelt back in the 90s to protect farmland, to protect green space. And I kind of hope this commission can kind of honor that, the Greenbelt. Interestingly, I mean, there's 3 active farms between this property and Athens. And I don't know why in the world you would skip over 3 farms to put a concentrated development in the middle of nowhere. To summarize things here, you have 0 support from adjacent property owners. They haven't contacted a single one of us in this process. You have zero support from the people of Winterville, including the mayor. The New Grove Church at the corner, a lot of those are here. You'll hear from them. Zero support there. Property across the street, Old Elberton, that's zoned industrial. The Industrial Authority has said they don't support this. Adjacent industrial businesses don't support it. Reason being, you don't put residential next to industrial. That's just something you don't do. That doesn't work. Moving on, the planning department is against it. Planning commission is unanimous against it, and that doesn't fit the regional planning. So, you know, I think the people are pretty clear here about what they're saying. They don't want this. And so I hope this commission respects the will of the people and will vote this a big no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak to Old Elberton?
Yes. My name is Michael Middlebrooks. I live at 285 Gateway Circle. I am a member of New Grove Baptist Church. I'm also a deacon on the deacon board there, and also the CEO of the Board of Incorporation. I stand this afternoon to speak on behalf of the church and the pastor, Reverend Elijah Swift Jr., that we have concerns of the development that was proposed. And I'm not sure if I understand what the gentleman said, that they are now looking at maybe reducing the number or requesting to have that reevaluated, to look at the number of units that will be on that land. If that be the case, the church may be more in a line to agree with what they're asking, being that our big concern was the number of units that was being asked to be put on the 230 acres. Because of the fact that we are downhill from the development, we already have 3 concerns that we have to deal with on a regular basis. One of those is excess water runoff from the school, as well as drainage ditch that comes down to the intersection of Moores Grove and Old Elberton Road. Our second concern was the increase of vehicles along that right-of-way, especially during the week when school is letting out. We already have cars backing up beyond both of our driveway down to the intersection. Those 2 things was things that we was mostly concerned with, as well as increased use of our parking and lot by people coming and going in different directions, using it to leave their cars over that may be damaged or have trouble. People just pulling into our driveway to sit and park. So those things are, we have decided that if this new community come in would only increase. And we are asking that if you would to deny the plan as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Middlebrooks. Anyone else here to speak to the Old Elberton project?
Good evening. My name is Jose Pagan. I'm a neighbor at 225 Lem Edwards Road in Winterville, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm here to express my opposition to this project. Several reasons, because mainly it's contrary to the regional planning and current ACC plans. There has been a lot of work that was put into try to create that area as a bicycle hub, criterium, the UGA team all train around that there. So this is an appropriate development within that green belt. You know, it impacts negatively the farming, the industry, and of course the neighborhoods that are there. This is not a transitional development zone as it has been defined by the developer. This is a well-established agricultural rural community. We have chosen to live here because of that. Most of the impacts that would come out of this would be negative to the soil and water of this area. And also, you know, this project has been, as it was proposed, is what I consider a piecemeal type thing, that it's not in harmony with any of the stylistic context around or scale within that area. There is no appropriate basic infrastructure either. And basically the way it's proposed is creating an island with regards to transit and other services that are required to support it. It's way out there in the middle of nowhere. Another concept that I've heard a lot is that maturity of the green zone or the regional plan, it's come to an end, or it's 20 years in the making and all that. The same environmental problems are not gone away. We need green space, we need agriculture, we need areas of expansion for the community that are different to urban type scenarios. Also, developments like this in the past, neighboring counties have resulted in an increase of taxpayers' money to support that type of infrastructure. We're going to pay dearly for this too. And my most important, comment is that it will create an unfortunate precedent by allowing or opening the doors to a floodgate of more development based on the same dynamics that the developer has expressed at this time. So schools, police, maintenance, and all skyrockets in communities that sacrifice farmland to sprawl, and this is what this is called, sprawl. We don't want this in our backyards or in our community. We have a well-balanced use of the resources that we have. So I respectfully ask this commission to turn down this petition as it is right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pagan. Anyone else speaking to Old Elberton Road?
Hello.
Evening.
My name is Dr. Elijah Swift Jr., pastor of the New Grove Baptist Church in beautiful Winterville, Georgia, 1228 Moores Grove Road, Winterville, Georgia, 30683. And I would just like to echo the sentiments of many of our constituents. We want you to vote no on this particular project. It will hamper, it will hinder, it will make the quality of life in this location very difficult. It will, all of the increased traffic, all of the increased just everything. So we just want to say we join in with the community and with all of the other business leaders to say no. And again, thank you all for your service, and thank you for voting no on this project. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Swift. Anyone else to speak to item number 1, Old Elberton Road proposal?
Is there anyone else? Yes. We have one more, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you.
Two more. Three more. We have several more, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Members of the commission. My name is Doug Griffin. I live at 290 Old Elberton Road. I want to first of all thank you for your service to our community. I know at times it can be pretty grueling, and I think you're to be commended for it. Upon the advice of my own counsel, I need to make just a couple of things perfectly clear. I need to disavow that at any time anyone has contacted me, attempted to contact me, that I have received input from anyone. There has been absolutely no contact, even though I own the driveway that's immediately adjacent to about 80% of the development as is. So, sir, my representative, I really like you. I think you do a good job. But if you're going to, enter into some sort of negotiation with these people, I trust you to keep me informed, because it's quite evident they're not going to. Please vow to me that you'll promise to do that, and I believe you. Workforce housing is a important thing to us all. I've been working on it since 1981 on the east side of Athens exclusively. And I have rented to people in the workforce in excess of 1,000 through renovation of existing units, construction of new units, award-winning reconstruction of units for properties that were condemned. And I know something about this. And I would be happy to meet with you as you saw fit, not as I saw fit, and discuss some of the things that I've learned in 41 years. As you begin to consider what we're going to do about those persons that are being left out from the unusual price increases that we've seen. Workforce housing consists of getting a trouble call at 6 o'clock in the morning, the toilet is running, and going around there by 7 o'clock and getting to the driveway, and the lady who lives there whose grandmother's in the house taking care of a sick child shows you her wallet, she's got $60. She needs to take the child to the doctor and she's got an electric bill for $80. Workforce housing is putting her in the car and taking care of it. It's not a place.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Others to speak to Old Elberton.
Yes. Hey, I'm Grant Whitworth, live at 760 Meg Street. I'm here to speak on behalf of several of the property owners which we represent in the Athena Industrial Park area. There's BioPlanet, which recently acquired the property at Old Elberton Road and Boyles Road. RWDC, who is in the old DuPont plant, who is also opposed to all of these are opposed to this development. We are currently in negotiations with a group on the property across from this site on Pittard Road, which is a 200-acre industrial site with a user, which would be a large job creator as well. And all of these industries located in the park, most of which are recent, are opposed to this development. We do not think it's the right place. It's not what's designed for this location. And I hope y'all will reject this proposal. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitworth. Any others to speak to Old Elberton Road?
Hey guys, I'm Karen Griffin. I'm a builder here in the Athens area. I have been for 39 years. And I'm also a homeowner that our driveway separates Cool Middle School from the development. I just want to say that the last time I was here in these chambers, we actually proposed one of our developments on Gaines School Road. And one of the things that we did to get ready for that, we actually met with the Homeowners Association of Cedar Creek Development, and we met with them 3 times before we finally put on paper what we did want to build. I have a couple of things that I'll leave with you, and I think some of this you may have already gotten in a packet that I left at the last planning department meeting. One is a map of the area. There are 13 people that their property touches this development. The 750 homes that are proposed, the backs of them line up. 75 homes line up and border on our driveway and go down and cul-de-sac into my mom's, who is now 91 and has been at every meeting up until this point. They cul-de-sac in her backyard. So we're pretty distressed about the development. We're especially distressed about the way it's developed, with the majority of the construction toward Cool Middle School and also toward the my mom's property and our property, and Oakmont also backs up to that. So I will leave you a map with these property owners' names on it, just to remind you. We also started a change.org petition. It didn't run long. It probably lasted 10 days, all in total. But in those 10 days, we had 417 people sign up. Plus, we had the New Grove Baptist Church people sign up with us. There's 200 members of that. So we have field verified 288 of these people that signed up, and plus the 200. So over 400, 450-ish people have been verified that they signed this petition against the development as it was presented to us in the planning department that was voted unanimously no. I'll leave you that also. Mayor Dodd expressed concern. We've met several times. We've done field survey. We've been on site and everything. Commissioner Davenport, Ms. Avita, everybody, a couple came out and did a field site plan way at the beginning of this process. And Mayor Dodd sent a letter tonight, and he said that he would like for me to read it. I'm supposed to have.
Ms. Griffin, your time has expired.
I'm sorry.
But you could leave that if you want to enter that.
I actually signed up for 10 minutes, and I thought I did have it, but no. I did a clerk of court. Huh?
I did too.
You signed up for 10? Oh.
I'll let you use.
Oh, you signed up too? Sorry, I didn't know.
I apologize. I'd gotten the signatories and you weren't on there, but you may continue.
Okay. I just have two more little things. Mayor Dodd sent a letter. It's addressed to all of you guys, Mayor Gertz and all the commissioners. And it says, while I do believe that development is coming to this area, I write to you today to declare my opposition to the proposed homestead development. I fear that the effects of such a large development on the city of Winterville have not been thoroughly addressed. If they have been addressed at all, you will be basically placing the city of the size of Winterville right next to the city of Winterville in an already underserved area with respect to county services. The infrastructure is not in place to support such a large development. So quite simply, it is way too much, way too soon. You will overload our schools, our roads, and our public safety departments, which is incredibly concerning to me. So I welcome a discussion on all of the above and more before anything like this is seriously considered. Thank you in advance for reading my comments, and feel free to reach out for more discussion. Sincerely, Mayor Dodd Farrell, Mayor of Winterville. And then I also have the letter from Peter Johansson, and he is the COO of BioPlanet. They're on the 44 acres. His letter to you guys expresses concern, but his 5 objections would be the resulting increase in residential traffic that will potentially impede and even restrict the access to future facility by his employees, to the suppliers making the deliveries, the shippers making finished goods pickups. Number 2, the potential for objections to our future development plans on poor land holdings and operating hours should be the number of proposed 750 households and support the staff locally close to our facility. So they're thinking about pulling out of doing that 44-acre development if this goes forward. Number 2, the 3 proposed traffic circle at the intersection is not compatible with commercial vehicle traffic, nor is it one for which we look to donate property for its construction. Number 4, the community in the surrounding area is not suitable for residential development, lacking the basic amenities such as sidewalks, parks, and commercial resources to walk to and from. Number 5, the potential for congestion and degradation of the roadways and disruption due to the large number of construction vehicles that would be required to complete the development. So I'll leave you the letter from Peter Johansson from BioPlanet also. In short, we thank you for your time, and we put our future in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you.
Any further input from the public on Old Elberton Road?
Mr. Mayor, I'm a bit confused. I was under the impression from the communications that have been had that the commission would vote whether it was tabled or not before we went on with public hearing tonight.
So the commission will take up discussion as a body and then entertain any motion from that body.
Okay, because if the commission was not inclined to table and we're going to go ahead and have a hearing, then we would be in a different posture. as far as how we proceed from here, Mr. Mayor.
So it's our process that the commission has the opportunity to put any motion on the floor relative to a planning and zoning item. And so by our zoning code, that includes opportunity to return an item to the planning commission with a designated set of tasks, hold for 40 days, honoring a request from an applicant to withdraw, to approve an item or to deny an item, or to approve as modified by a member of the commission.
Okay. So I guess what I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, then you're indicating that at this point, our request to set it aside for 40 days, that's just going to be that or a vote at this time. No choice either way.
That request has to then be carried by a member of the commission as a motion.
That being the case, and Mr. Mayor, we would ask to consider withdrawing our application at this time.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. We're going to go ahead and move to the commission level discussion. And of course, this is in District 1, Commissioner Davenport's district. So, Commissioner, you have the opportunity to make a motion or comment on the item.
Yeah, I'll make a comment first. Thank you for all the constituents and residents for voicing your opinions and your concerns. I was not able to respond to all the emails and phone calls, but my opposition 4 months ago is still the same today. I think it's a beautiful project. I think that the landowner and his representative are doing the best that they can. And I respect their decisions that I've made. But at the same time, people move out to District 1 because they like the peace and quiet. They like the serenity. They like the trees. And as a commissioner, I want to keep it that way. I have spoken with the applicant as well. I have spoken with the applicant. I have not met with the applicant due to COVID concerns, but I spoke in text several times with the applicant, and I've even mentioned to the applicant that he has the potential to withdraw. It's been mentioned to him several times, and other options has been given to the applicant as well in the past. So at this time, I want to make a motion to deny.
Mr. Mayor, do I need to read the ordinance?
Please do, Attorney Drake.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to amending the official future land use map of Athens-Clarke County by changing the designation of approximately 233.02 acres of land located at Old Elberton Road from rural to traditional neighborhood and for other purposes.
I would like to second that motion with a comment.
Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, before we do, there's also a zoning ordinance, so I'll just read it too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to rezoning one parcel of land comprising approximately 233.02 acres located at Old Elberton Road from AR Agricultural Residential to RS 8 PD Single Family Residential Plan Development and for other purposes.
Good, Commissioner.
I second that motion because I have met with the applicant, but I also was one of the commissioners that Commissioner Davenport took out to the area, and I'm very passionate because it is in my old stomping ground, and the concerns are rising. But I agree with Commissioner Davenport. We're growing, and yes, it'll happen. But as long as we can have some serenity and tranquility in some part of Athens, I think we should maintain it. I think it's a great project. It has great potential, but I just don't think for that area right now is appropriate. So look forward to hearing from the applicant on something else maybe. But this one, I do hear the voices of the community, and everybody knows me. I usually vote the way residents who paid taxes and who have invested and have had their visions. And I wish we would look at all of those things when we do vote on development as far as infrastructure. That was all, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport, second from Commissioner Thornton. Any other input before I return to Commissioner Davenport? Commissioner, go right ahead.
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly, parliamentarily. I want to deny the motion.
First, it would be the future development map change.
Yeah. I want to deny the motion to deny the future development map change. Then I'll make another motion to deny the development. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. So we'll take up the future land use change right now. So the motion on the floor is to deny the future development map change. We've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport, second from Commissioner Thornton. Any further input from the body?
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
I might want to get some clarification from staff, from Brad, of what effect the applicant indicating they want to withdraw their submission has on the matter. Does that make sense, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the question specifically?
Well, the attorney for the applicant has now said they wished, and we can confirm this. But what I thought I heard was they said they wanted to withdraw their submission. Or is that what I heard? I think that's what I heard.
That's correct.
I think there was a request to withdraw under the ordinance. At this point in the process, after the public hearing's been advertised, a request to withdraw by an applicant requires a vote of the full mayor and commission to approve it. They certainly have the option to do any other thing. The biggest difference here is that the motion to deny the future development map and subsequently the rezoning would lead to a 12-month waiting period before they could return for another request. If they accepted the motion to withdraw, they could turn around immediately and come back with something else.
And so would there need to be a motion if there was a desire? I'm just trying to get clarification from a parliamentary procedure here. If there was a desire on the part of the whole commission, someone would need to make a motion to allow the withdrawal of the submission of the future use plan map amendment and also the rezoning request?
Yes, sir.
Two separate motions?
Two separate to allow the withdrawal to occur instead of the current motion, which is to deny.
Yeah. I was just trying to clarify for everyone, Mr. Mayor, make sure we all understood what we were doing. And so two different things, the denial and the withdrawal, Mr. Mayor, just clarifying.
And Commissioner Davenport, you understand that those were options available to you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So I've got a motion on the floor for denial. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries for denial of the change in future land use. And would you like to make a motion regarding the rezoning, Commissioner?
I would like to make a motion to deny the rezone.
I second it.
All right. We've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport. I think a photo finish with Commissioner Parker and Commissioner Thornton for the second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 2 regarding 155 Mitchell Street. And I know we do have one public input opportunity online. And so let me go ahead and turn to Rodney King. Rodney, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I sure can. All right. And so, Rodney, you're signed up for the 10 minutes, and so you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will not use the entire 10 minutes. Just to come out the gate, we want to make, I'm requesting that we would withdraw this application. Our goal is to represent this project later in the summer after we kind of button up all of our agreements with the Athens Housing Authority and some other kind of key stakeholders in the community. During our talks for the last week, we've educated ourselves and hopefully we've educated some of the commissioners about some of the priorities that I've heard and listened to is that family affordable housing is the priority in the community, not necessarily student affordable housing. Therefore, we're going to pivot our application to go in the direction of a payment in lieu of, and there's some mechanics that we need to work through with the commission, with the county attorney, with the Athens Housing Authority to make sure we can effectuate that payment. So therefore, I'm requesting withdrawal until we work through those matters in the coming weeks and months. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. King. Is there any input in the chamber regarding Mitchell Street? All right.
Yes, we have someone.
Oh. Evening.
Not much of anyone. Hi, my name is Charlie Maddox. I live at 115 Avalon Drive, Athens, Georgia. I come before you in agreement with Mr. King about withdrawing, but just for informational purposes. A group of us have worked tireless for affordable housing here in Athens. And again, I know the mayor and commission has put that as one of their mainstays. This particular effort gives us that. I always listen to my fellow Athenians as they come to request funds for funding certain things. I'm proud to say the last 2 times I've been here, it's to come to make you aware of additional funds that we can use for our community. And this is certainly in line with that, with the inclusionary zoning system. We find that where we, and when I say we, I'm talking about Athens-Clarke County, can provide for home ownership where it's made affordable. When we say affordable home ownership or affordable anything, we have to look at the bottom line and understand this. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. And in this particular situation, we have an opportunity that there's a win-win, a win for the developer, a win for the community, and a win for individual homeowners. I've spent time talking with most of the commissioners this weekend, and we're going to continue to engage in that and see how that we can do this. And the inclusionary vision subcommittee that Athens has formed, they've been looking at this. And so I just think it's a project that the time has come, but I really do want everyone to understand so we can make an outstanding choice for what we want to do for Athens-Clarke County. We can do this not just this one time. It's not a one and done. It's where we can continue for years and years and years to help establish generational wealth from home ownership with assistance from Athens-Clarke County and the developers that come, that we will know who will pay, but we also know who will benefit, and that will be the citizens of Athens-Clarke County. So in the days and weeks, and hopefully not too many months, I will be sharing with you what I have come to learn, and there are some other experts that will bring information like Mr. King and Mr. Park and other people. So again, I agree with them. We table it for the time that we need to bring forth the super opportunities that are available through this. So again, I thank you for your desire to provide affordable home ownership, affordable units in this community. So let's just keep on keeping on, and this is a great way to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Maddox. Anyone else in the chamber to speak to the Mitchell Street project? All right. Seeing none, we'll engage the commission in discussion, and this is in District 4, Commissioner Wright's district. So I'll go ahead and begin with you, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, before we have discussion, let me read the ordinance really quick. Get out of
Thanks,
the way.
Attorney.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to amending a planned development for a parcel of land comprising approximately 1.7 acres located at 155 Mitchell Street in the CD RIV PD Commercial Downtown River Downtown Design Area Plan Development District and for other purposes.
Thanks, Attorney Drake. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody, the mayor and commission and others for the learning process that I think we've all been going through with this project from the beginning, and being, I think, just a little ahead of the curve and having the mechanisms in place for the affordable fee in lieu. And I'm hoping that Commissioner Denson and Commissioner Parker may also chime in, but since they're on the inclusionary committee, I am going to leave my part of this in support of Mr. King and the applicant asking for the withdrawal so that they can come back when we have the mechanisms in place and they have done their side of the mechanisms in place. So I make the motion that we accept the withdrawal.
I'll second that.
Right.
And
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I just want to chime in a little bit with my understandings based on my participation in the inclusionary zoning working group, as well as just a couple of other thoughts. We actually, in our discussions, have veered away from considering a payment in lieu of structure, just given some concerns folks have had about how that would be set up and the perceptions around receiving payments in exchange for approval of zoning variances, et cetera. I'm really glad for this opportunity that we've had through this to sort of gauge with the rest of the commission how we feel about a payment in lieu of system in general. And if there is interest there, I do think there are some benefits. A lot of our affordable housing work of recent has focused around multifamily housing, and I can't speak for anyone else's district, but in mine, there are a lot of folks who do want to see us incentivize and invest in preserving the character of our historically working class single family neighborhoods. And so I do think that a payment in lieu of structure with this particular project and others does give us the opportunity to reallocate capital from these multifamily projects into investments in preserving the character of those working class neighborhoods that are becoming unaffordable, that are experiencing gentrification. And so I'm happy to for us to consider that with this project and weigh in and have others that are a participant in the inclusionary zoning working group discussions weigh in as well. I think this can be really productive discussions. Another thing that I hear oftentimes when I speak with my constituents is a desire to diversify the housing nonprofit ecosystem here in Athens. That we do have two main providers that very frequently get kind of like first dibs on a lot of projects because they have the capacity, because they have the track record, but it kind of shields smaller organizations from being able to sit at the table and be considered for similar opportunities, because we go through the cycle of, they don't have the capacity, so they can't get the funding, and then they never get the funding, so they never build the capacity, et cetera. And so with this particular project, I would love to see us also consider the East Athens Development Corporation as a potential participant in that payment in lieu of system, for the reason I just discussed with regards to investing in using money from a multifamily project to invest in a historically working class single family neighborhood like those in Census Tracts 301 and 302, which they serve. I know I've spoken with their leadership a number of times over the last couple of weeks about their desire to restart their housing program, which they had, back in the day, but for various reasons kind of stalled. But, they do have ideas for a structure for such program in place. The problem is getting the capital to get up to be competitive for CDBG grants next year and things like that. And so I feel like probably in this case, the same thing kind of happened again, where there's like two main nonprofits that, take your pick of these two. But in the spirit of trying to honor what I hear oftentimes talking to my constituents about the need to strengthen other entities that can do this work, and that may bring a sense of community control over the development of affordable housing. I just wanted to put that out there as something I would really like to see if we are considering a payment in lieu of moving forward with this particular project. But I thank Commissioner Wright for her work on this, and second her motion.
Thanks, Commissioner Parker. And just I'll note, at least one model of payment in lieu program, would simply have this body accept funds into a pot for specific allocation by the body in much the same way we make specific allocations for home funds. So the money would just go into that fund, and then community entities would apply for project-specific needs. So I've got Commissioners Link, Denson, and Thornton lined up.
Yeah, I just want to remind folks that when this piece of property was rezoned some 6 or 7 from RN2 to CD, it essentially received a density bonus of 700%. So this idea of, this project needing, even further density bonus and, is kind of ridiculous to me. And the idea of of a payment in lieu of being just $1 million. Profit margin on this project is far exceeds that. I just want to remind folks, you know, where this whole project came from. It came from a proposal to rezone this RM2 land that was working class single family housing, affordable housing. That property was rezoned from RM2 to downtown with the promise of a luxury senior condo, which also would have added significantly to the tax base. And that was one of the arguments back then for approval of this project. I'll just state right here and now that I will not support any project property that does not include significant housing for people other than students, whether or not it's an affordable component or is a payment in lieu project. I support any housing that does not have a significant component that is conducive to, and I've worked with other developers working these kinds of portions of their projects to into large multi-story family projects, and I believe it can happen here, and ask the developers to please consider redesigning their project for some ground floor entrances that are directly into the units that would attract young professionals, folks who work at UGA, retirees, the kind of folks who may not want to share a hallway with students, but might certainly want to live downtown and have their own little entry into their own apartment. So I'm asking for some creativity in designing the project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. And as I sit on that inclusionary housing subcommittee, also as Commissioner Parker brought up, some of the discussion has been a reluctance, definitely a reluctance to widely roll out a payment in lieu of program, because the most effective way for us to get affordable housing built is to have the developers who are already building housing build the affordable housing there. But we have talked about using it in very specific situations, which could be with student housing. But my concern is that I don't think that is one of the policy pieces that is being fast tracked by the inclusionary housing committee, and so I don't think that it will be ready. I very much doubt that it'll be ready by our next voting session. And so I guess my concern is does that actually cause even bigger problems, possibly for the petitioner, that if it's very unlikely that we will actually have the tool ready to do what we're holding this for, I just don't want to create an even more difficult situation possibly. Because I, as somebody who sits on the committee, and I don't know if Commissioner Parker agrees, I find it very unlikely that we'll have that ready by the time this comes before us again.
So mechanistically, a withdrawal would mean that they would have to go back to planning through the planning commission, and my recommendation to them would be to bring it through when the tool exists. So have the process, have the tool in place, then apply. And so, you know, rather than put the cart before the horse, do it in the correct order.
So this would go back through the planning commission and everything again? Oh, okay.
Unless the tool was designed in a way that it was by right with a design set of criteria, and so didn't require rezoning. But yes, what would be a new application, as if somebody just stepped into the lobby off the street. So, Commissioner Thornton.
I supported this housing complex a minute ago. This whole thing with the pay in lieu just was cherry on the top of a cake. I'm kind of, I don't know if it's just me, but if we would have had this kind of option or discussion or a thought about the Lexington project, I think we would be much further down the road. We have developers come in and out of this town, suck up our resources, and move on. And things are going to change. And I appreciate Commissioner Link's adamancy where she stands on this, but we need to focus on the big picture of affordable housing and how we get there. I want to tell this applicant that I think just even thinking about how we can address our affordable housing issue is more than any other applicant who has been developed in Athens has done. So some things may be flawed, but we move forward with it. But I do think this is a new approach. I hope that the inclusionary zoning committee can get creative also. But to just say you're not going to support something because it doesn't look the way you think it looks, and then we pass something that was crappy before, I think that is a bit much. But I hope that they come back and we can come together and start thinking about how we best serve this community. And affordable housing has been a conversation long before I even got on. So this might be the new norm if we find a way to make it work. But let's not just shut stuff down and we don't even get all the facts, and not commend an applicant for being creative to try to figure out how we can address a long existing problem.
Thanks, Commissioner. I've got Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Myers.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The motion on the table by Commissioner Wright is to accept the applicant's withdrawal. I see no reason to object to that motion, so I support that motion and encourage us to move on. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
I'd go ahead and say I agree with what Commissioner Edwards just said, but I did hear Commissioners Parker and Denson also sort of indicating that the Inclusionary Zoning Committee was leaning to against in lieu fees. Is that correct? Is that correct from
what I
Parker
certainly
and
heard
Denson?
What I heard from your comments is that there was an interest in broad application of that, but there may be interest in narrow application of it, for example, for a student-focused development. Is that accurate?
Yeah, right. So I'm ready to move on and vote for this, but I did want to voice my interest in the in lieu fees for specifically situations like this with student housing. From my research, I see that, one of the things with the disadvantages of in lieu fees is that it can lead to segregation and less mixed use housing in certain developments. Well, that's probably fine for student housing. And so I think we need to create a policy that works with what we have here in Clarke County in terms of our student housing as well. And I just want to put that on the record if it makes a difference to all you Inclusionary Zoning Committee people and those listening.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright, do you want to follow up?
Well, I just wanted to give the applicant the time and the process time to happen. I think that Mr. Maddox summarized very well what the Athens Housing Authority as another government entity, which is my understanding that's who we need to partner with, is another government entity for this to transpire, and then the work that can be done throughout our community from this pot of money can be the creative. We don't have to decide all that now. We're just trying to create the mechanism for this to happen and for there to be the fee, affordable fee in lieu. And
that's right.
So I'm ready to vote if you guys are.
All right. Commissioner Thornton, follow up.
I'm just going to close out. Commissioner Wright just mentioned the Housing Authority, but Commissioner Parker also mentioned EADC, and I'm going to mention HCD. So let's not just start naming particular entities in the local government, because we definitely want to get to a place where people are included in some way. So I'll pull back my recommendation if everybody else pull back theirs and just let it, flow. But when we start naming these agencies, we always overlook a lot of them and only direct our attention to one or two.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, there is a motion on the floor to accept withdrawal and a second from Commissioner Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Item has been withdrawn. Third item of the evening is renaming of the 200 to 500 blocks of Odd Street to Rosa, Nell, Howard. And I believe Ms. Mildred Lyle is signed up for public input. So is Ms. Lyle in the chamber? Good evening, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gertz and commissioners. My name is Mildred Lyle. I'm a native Athenian. I live at 1000 Oglethorpe Avenue. It is with an humble spirit that I come before you to thank you for your time and your kind consideration of renaming the 200 through 500 blocks of Odd Street to Rosa Nell Howard Street. The late Mrs. Rosa Nell Howard, the late Mrs. Rosa Nell Howard owned 2 parcels of land on Odd Street, and she lived at 560 Odd Street for 65 plus years. She lived there until she was 102 years old. It is my understanding that you have already received a package from me that contained my original request dated 2019, letters of support from the Springfield Baptist Church, letters from property owners, letters from the community at large, and another petition from the community in support of this renaming. I also submitted via the comment form some comments, my personal comments, and a list of about 13 supporters who are elderly and are unable to come out to meetings and have health issues and concerns about COVID as well. Mrs. Howard, Mrs. Howard was affectionately called Miss Rosa Nell. She was held in high regard, and she was a woman of faith that lived by the golden rule and led by example. She was loved and respected. She was very concerned about her neighbors and their well-being. Miss Rosa Nell shared food, shelter, and her beautiful flowers with her neighbors, and oftentimes brought flowers to our church, Springfield Baptist, located on 4th Street, throughout the years for events and for regular worship service. She shared her wisdom. She gave encouragement, especially to young people. A descendant of a former property owner, the late Mrs. Florence Daniels' daughter, shared with me that her mother and Miss Rosa Nell, back in the 1930s, advocated for improvements in the neighborhood. For example, running water, sewer lines, electricity, and paving of the street. So Ms. Rosa Nell didn't just live there. She was part of the neighborhood, and she did what she could to make it better. I have received some additional letters of support that I would like to share with you. I will not read all of the letter. However, I will read excerpts. The first letter is from Deacon Rudolph Moore, Springfield Baptist Church. Deacon Moore writes that Ms. Rosa Nell was an outstanding neighbor and citizen of Athens-Clarke County. She was spiritual, faithful, loving, and devoted to her family, neighbors, and friends. He talked about her involvement in her church, the flowers she brought, and that she was always giving an uplifting and encouraging word. Another letter here is from Mrs. Carolyn Shepherd, who states that she has known Mrs. Howard, Miss Rosa Nell, all of her life. She too talks about the beautiful flowers and Miss Rosa Nell singing in the choir and being part of the Mother's Board and the Matron Circle, and that she supports this effort to rename that portion of the street in her honor. Miss Glenda Hood was with the citywide Bible class, which was a very popular, well-known Bible study class of elderly people, not all of them elderly, but older people, I would say. And she talks favorably of Miss Rosa Nell, how kind she was, and how she misses her. And she visited her in the neighborhood, and whenever she would tell Miss Rosa Nell on those visits how much she missed her, Miss Rosa Nell would always say, "I wish I could still be with you all." I have a letter from Mr. Kenneth Little. He has known Miss Rosa Nell all of his life. He misses her. He talks about her cooking, the cakes that she made for him. He talks about always enjoying giving her a ride to church along with his mother, because she was always pleasant to be around. She was a beautiful person. He truly misses her. Another letter here from Miss Deborah L. Owings refers to visiting Miss Rosa Nell in her home. She speaks especially of the Christmas gatherings, wherein the neighborhood children would go and provide entertainment, and they would be rewarded with fried chicken and delicious cakes that Miss Rosa Nell had baked, and how much she enjoyed visiting her during that time of the year especially. I have a letter from Miss Peggy R. Garrett, who lives now in Missouri City, Texas. I lived in Athens from 1972 to 2006, and Mrs. Rosa Nell Howard was a dear friend. She talks about attending the same church and that Miss Rosa Nell made a difference in the community, and it would be a great honor to rename that portion of the street. I have a letter here from Dr. Robert Harrison, whose mother still lives on 3rd Street. He speaks of 6 generations spanning 115 years at that location, and he thinks that it would be a great honor and that Miss Rosa Nell deserves this honor. Lastly, I have a letter from her granddaughter. She only had one son, and she has one granddaughter and one great-grandchild. She wants to thank the mayor for holding this meeting to consider renaming the street after her grandmother. She talks about her grandmother being kind, generous, and tenacious. She has a word here for me, but I'm doing this out of love. Miss Rosa Nell and my grandmother were the best of friends, and I kind of see Miss Rosa Nell as another grandmother and visited her home myself from a child up. There are just so many wonderful things I would like to say about Miss Rosa Nell. My heart is full. I wanted to put my comments down because of certain things I wanted you all to know about her. I also brought along this. I don't know if you all can see it. I'm new at these type meetings. But Miss Rosa Nell's, this is a program from her 95th birthday. And as you can see, she's standing tall. She was a strong lady. She lived to be 108 years old, 262 days. Sadly, she passed away in 2019 at a local nursing home. The Athens Banner Herald reported her as being the oldest woman in Athens. Ms. Rosa Nell deserves this honor. Mayor and Commissioners, I came before you tonight to ask that you would consider renaming that portion in her honor. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Lyle. That was a lovely tribute. We appreciate you bringing that to us. Is there anybody else to speak to this item tonight?
My name is Fred Smith. I live at 425 Rivermont Road. I'm a member of the Athens Area Black History Committee, as well as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. It gives me great pleasure to stand here to follow Ms. Lyle in that wonderful presentation that she made about Mrs. Rosa Nell Howard. And as you know, I have come here before to talk about the need to have symbols and places named after African Americans in this community. And I can think of no one that is more deserving of such an honor, having a street named in her honor, than Mrs. Howard. Mrs. Howard, when this has been a lengthy process with Mrs. Lyle working on this, etc. And I spent a couple of days, or at least a couple of times within the last week or so, over on Art Street. And walking down that street, I got a feeling about the sense of what that community must have been like, and the area up there on the front where Mrs. Howard lived, and etc., and the few neighbors that are still there. And knowing others in that community that maybe not on Art Street but nearby, I have a sense of what that was like. And having read some of the at least the article that was in the Banner Herald, and having talked to Mrs. Lyle, you get a real sense of feel for Miss Howard, and you get a sense of what a wonderful lady she was, a wonderful citizen, a wonderful neighbor, wonderful church member, etc. And they talk about how she shared her knowledge, how she taught others how to can and preserve food, how she grew wonderful vegetables in her garden, and how she shared them. So I get a sense and a feel of the community and that spirit. And so this is quite a tribute. So I ask that you name that street in honor of her, and then also kind of in recognition of others in that community as well, who are through the years who have contributed so much but have not been recognized. So again, thank you. And also I want to say thank Mrs. Lyle again for the wonderful job she did and working so hard on this to bring this to the place where it is today. So again, thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there anybody else to speak to this item tonight?
Yes.
Oh, girl. Good evening. My name is Val Freeman. I live at 443 3rd Street. I have lived in the community for 66 years. I've known Miss Rosa Nell Howard all of my life. When I was growing up, my grandfather had a store, Howard's Grocery Store, on the corner of 3rd and Griffith Street, right across from where I live now. During those times when I was a child, my grandfather had the neighborhood grocery store. He had everything in it that Kroger's have now. Not as many varieties, but everything, because people used his store to come there to buy their weekly groceries. They paid for them weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. My brother and I had the task of delivering the groceries to the people in the neighborhood. Ms. Rosa Nell Howard was one of the people that we delivered to every Saturday, her and her husband, Mr. Ellis Howard. When we got there, we had to take the groceries in the house. We had to take them back to the kitchen. She made us put them up. And then she would, when we were children, we thought she was stern because whenever an adult try to keep you on the right path and make sure that you do what you're supposed to do, we looked at it at that time as being stern. Now I know that she was a loving person that really cared about the children in the community. Once we put up the groceries and, you know, just feeling all some kind of way about that, by that time she come out with us some tea cakes and reward us. And we felt good about that. She always had beautiful flowers. I'm a member of Springfield Baptist Church as well. I was president of the Matron Circle for 12 years. In the beginning, Ms. Rosanelle's health was bad, but we used to go and visit her. And then when she moved to the nursing homes, we would go and see her. She always loved to sing. She would join in songs with us. She always loved flowers. She always had beautiful flowers. Not to mention the fact Ms. Rosanelle Howard was a pillar of the community. She lived to be 108 years old. I'm sure Ridge Avenue, Berlin Street, Pearl Street, Flint Street, John Street, and Griffith Street, the street that I grew up on. None of those streets are named behind anybody in our community. I'm pretty sure of that. Ms. Rosanelle Howard is much deserving of having the street named to her in a community that our history is already rapidly diminishing. It would be an honor for the street to be named her. It would be an honor for me to pass by daily and see Rosanelle Howard Street. Also, hats off to Mildred Lau for all the work and the footwork, the leg work, the patience, and the vision for her to do this, because it was not an easy task. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Anyone else here to speak to the street name change?
Yes, my name is Charlie Jones, and I stay 243 Evans Street, Athens, Georgia. And I'm a member of Springfield Baptist Church, and I'm a deacon there. And I've been knowing Miss Rosanelle Howard over 30-something years. She always worked in the church, and like she said, she had a lot of wisdom, and she worked with young and older people and stuff. And we used to go down to her house and stuff. And just like she said, it wasn't a Sunday pass that she'll bring a different flower to church every Sunday that she was there. I'm talking about, I said myself, I said, there's no one time she had beautiful flowers. She always used to bring flowers to the church and stuff. And so I was just, Miss Lyles, she's, and Mr. Smith, Fred Smith, and stuff. I don't want to say the same thing they said, but I used to been knowing her for years, and I'm in favor, of the street name after Miss Rosanelle Howard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any further input on the street name change?
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Reginald Johnson Sr. And I stay at 147 Martin Circle over on the east side. Athens, been here 64 years. I'd like to speak on Miss Howard. I didn't know her longer like the guys before me did. I'm married and my wife was from that neighborhood. And I used to see Miss Howard at church, She's an older lady, but she was so spiritual. And I just used to love to see her. And one day, me and the deacons had to go down and visit her, or something would happen one Sunday. And I got a chance to really meet her. Ooh, she's just so humble and speaks so well and so loving. And, we spent time sitting there talking to her, which everything turned out to be fine, which that was a miracle too. But one day with the youth department, we went to visit her in the nursing home. And, I heard she liked to sing all the time. And the kids they were song, because she was trying to sing at the age you were too. And one of my granddaughters said, "Ooh, I'd like to be like her." But she said, not old, but no offense, But it just put things on their heart. And when they used to, when we went by the house one day down at Ford Street, and I said, well, there was Miss Rosanelle Howard there. And they was just so excited. And, it just put so much spirit in the kids' heart too, to know her, to be around her, to see her sing and all those things. But, I would love to see that street named after her. And it would be a miracle. And thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
for this.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Evening.
I came to represent the name changing from Arch Street to Rosa Howard. And it would be an honor to have the name change, not only for the community, but the whole city of Athens. Well, that would be some great history for the city of Athens to know that she was the oldest woman in Athens, Georgia, to turn to be 108. That's an honor for all of us. And we just thank God for her life. Rosa Howard was born in 1910, February 24th, 1910. And she lived to be 108 right here in the city of Athens. She lived with me for 3 or 4 years, then was transferred to the nursing home. But who can find a virtuous woman? As Proverb 31:10 says, Rosa Howard were a virtuous woman. She worked with her hand. She fished, came back and given out to the community. Whoever wanted fresh fish, they could get fresh fish. She had fresh fish. She caught fresh fish. She was a multitasking woman. She was a jack of all trades. Now, this was truly a virtuous woman. Who can find one? We had one in our community. Not only just her neighborhood, but Miss Rosa, when she knew somebody was sick or needed help, and she didn't drive, but she got to wherever she was going. She helped people from Martin Luther King Parkway, which used to be Hobson Avenue, all the way from Flint, 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever she could do, she did that. This were a virtuous woman, and it will be an honor to name that street after her for the history in Athens-Clarke County. And we appreciate Mildred Lyle for all her hard work, because it's a long job coming down here and staying till dark and everything. And we just give her glory and honor to her too. And we just thank God for you all. And it will be a privilege and an honor to have that history maker here in Athens-Clarke County. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just get your name for the record, ma'am?
Teresa Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Further input tonight?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, I'm going to go ahead and hand the facilitation and sharing torch to Mayor Pro Tem Edwards. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to changing the name of the section of Odd Street that runs from Flint Street to 1st Street to Rosa, Nell, Howard Street, and for other purposes.
So I make the this motion. Is my district, so never mind.
I make the motion.
All right, I second. Motion. And before we vote, I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to speak on behalf of in support of this name change, particularly Mrs. Lyle, who put in a lot of work to make this happen. Commend her for her hard work. I think they made an excellent case, as well as making that case, kind of bringing up a lot of what this neighborhood once was and what we can capture in preserving that memory through the street name change. And so I appreciate them for invoking those memories. And it's speaking to what we also as commission have the power and responsibility to preserve, I think, and continuing our conversations around housing in our neighborhoods. A lot of the folks that spoke or wrote letters reference, they've had spouses that have passed away. They are some of the last of a generation of folks that used to call this place home. But we do have a lot of work ahead of us. I hope and pray that we can accomplish to help keep their memories alive through preserving what these neighborhoods once were. But yeah, thank you.
Is that a second?
Yes, it is.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Thornton, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. First of all, most of the names that Mildred mentioned, I really don't remember. or don't know, but I do know the residents on Odd Street since when I moved here. And actually, Commissioner Parker lived in that first house where Billy Barnes used to live at. And he was such a helper in the community. This goes to show you, you don't have to be an elected official. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be what we think is great, what we think is great, but just the common things we do, the little things we do, somebody's paying attention. I'm really disappointed that we have a name change policy, but maybe there are going to be other ways that we can find more Rosa Nells, Howards in the community that won't take 3 years after somebody dies. But I am glad that Mildred stuck in here. I am so emotional now, but I am so glad that we did this because most of you guys don't even know about this kind of community. So that was my only comment, and I thank everybody that spoke tonight.
Great. All right. All in favor of the motion to rename Odd Street to Rosa Nell Howard Street, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. All right, next up, we've got item number 4, text amendments to code sections 9-15-27, et cetera, street renaming procedure. Do we have any public input in the chamber on this item? Hearing none, we'll bring it.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
No, my mistake, sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll come behind the rail.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Go for it.
Yep, we have actually, there are 3 text amendments. One is to code section 915-27, 925-8, and the third one's to 926-3. I will read each one of those now, then we'll have that order of business out of the way. The first is an ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to adding section 9-15-27, naming streets and for other purposes. And then we have an ordinance, that'll be the next item on the agenda, an ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to site design standards and for other purposes. And then finally, a text amendment ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to street block and easement standards and for other purpose. And that relates to 9-26-3 of the Athens-Clarke County Code. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. This comes with an unanimous recommendation for approval for the Planning Commission. The floor is open for any motion on this matter.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Davenport.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Davenport, do you have anything you'd like to say? Okay, Commissioner Parker. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Move on. And number 5, text amendment to code section 9-7-3, maximum lot coverage in RS25 single family residential. Go ahead, Attorney Drake.
Are you on number 5 now, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
Oh, y'all voted on all 3 of those?
Yes, sir.
That was quick. Good job. An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to general regulations and for other purposes is how the text amendment reads related to 973.
Okay, great. This amendment also has unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. I hear a motion from Commissioner Hamby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Hamby, do you have anything you'd like to say? No. Commissioner Myers, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
All right. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 6, request of Frank Pittman, Pittman Engineering, estate of Ronald Cooper for rezoning from CN to CG on 4.156 acres known as 4430 and 4432 Lexington Road. Proposed use is self-service storage, type 2, District 1. We have Frank Pittman, I believe, has signed up for 10 minutes to contribute, to offer. Is he in the chamber? Let me see if I can find. Okay, I have Mr. Pittman here. Mr. Pittman, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Pittman. You have 10 minutes.
I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm remote. I had a few items, had 3 items at Oconee County tonight. It's hard to get back and forth, so I appreciate you guys working with me. You guys have seen this. The request is the piece of property between Tractor Supply and the park on Lexington Road. It's currently zoned CN. The request is to rezone this to CG with a binding site plan, a binding use. The property is part of the old Ronald Cooper estate, which was subdivided up years ago, and Tractor Supply, ended up with their parcel, and there's another parcel or two that may front on Whit Davis Road. When all that was split up, the Georgia DOT required that they have a shared drive on Lexington Road. So this piece of property does not have its own access. So the access to this property is through a platted access easement through Tractor Supply, which makes it pretty difficult for a lot of commercial businesses to come along to develop this property, which is one of the reasons why it's sat for so long. There's some other constraints on this property that make it hard to develop. One being the property sits about 8 feet below the road on Lexington Road. So, a lot of businesses, restaurants and such, it just isn't an ideal parcel for that. The other huge detriment to this property that's kind of stopped it from being developed over the years is there's no sewer frontage for this property. So anything on this property has got to be on septic. The request is to build a self-storage facility on the property, and that's so that use is actually one of the very few uses that can function on septic, because you only have 1 or 2 employees in the office at a time. The sitting below the road isn't a big issue, and the access is not a big issue for this use either. When we first started this conversation and went to a planning commission, some of the original request was just a straight rezone to CG. There was a concept plan involved. Planning commission had concerns that if this was rezoned to CG, what happens next to these guys? Do they bait and switch us? Do they come along later and decide to do something else that's allowed in CG, a Jiffy Lube or something like that? And so to kind of ease their concerns on that, we took this back and revised the request so that it's a binding plan, a binding use. So what you see on this plan is what has to be built. So there's no opportunity for a bait and switch to build anything else. This use is obviously not the sexiest use out there, but it's a good commercial business on the east side of town, which needs some new businesses. It helps us develop a piece of property that is very tough to develop for other commercial uses. And it's, they're pretty big taxpayer. So, with that, we'd like to request that you guys approve this rezone with the binding use binding plan. And I'm open to any questions that you guys may have.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Pittman. If you want to hang around on the phone line, if we do have any commission input.
Okay.
Is there anybody else in the chamber looking to give public input on this item?
No.
Hearing none, let's come behind the rail. This comes with an approval with conditions, unanimous, for the Planning Commission recommendation. The floor is open for a motion and consideration of this item.
Mr. Mayor, can I read the ordinance? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Go for it.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to rezoning 2 parcels of land comprising approximately 4.156 acres located at 4430 and 4432 Lexington Road from CN Commercial Neighborhood to CG Commercial General Zoning with conditions and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. Floor is open for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to table this item.
Okay, Commissioner Davenport, motion to table. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Davenport, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, I need to do my due diligence with Mr. Pittman and speak with him to address some of the residents' concerns. I'm not a big fan or favor of more storage units on Lexington Road. I respect the decisions of our planning commission, but I think we can find better uses for it, especially next to a park. That's valuable space. But I would like to speak with the applicant further and just like to table.
Mr. Griffin, before we go any further, what are we doing here with the tabling?
See, I think we've got a little bit of an issue here, Mayor Pro Tem, in that the way the ordinance is set up, this is a type 2 rezone. So you can certainly approve it, you can deny it, you can send it back to the planning commission, you can hold it. But the ordinance specifically says you cannot hold it for more than 40 days. And because you do not have a meeting scheduled in July, if you push it to August, we are outside the limits of what the ordinance says you have the authority to do. So,
right. Commissioner Davenport, could we hold it until June 15th? Would that give you time, sir?
Holding it till June 15th would be perfect.
Okay. Commissioner Parker, do you second that?
I'm sorry, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Parker, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other input on holding this item till June 15th, for or against the motion? Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I'd like to commend Commissioner Davenport for following up and looking into this. This is not my district, but I've received a lot of comments from people on the east side who are not eager for another storage facility, and one that's right there next to the park as well. I'm really glad to get the public input, and I'm glad to hear people are really concerned about that part of Lexington Road and the development going on there. So I look forward to hearing more from Commissioner Davenport after he has those conversations.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Anyone against the hold wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of Commissioner Davenport's motion to hold until June 15th, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pittman. Now we've got public input on all items, old and new. And we do have a gentleman here, Mr. Dennis Holmes. Mr. Holmes? Are you there, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You have 3 minutes. Go for it, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, y'all, I don't have to tell y'all why I'm calling. Like I said, my name is Dennis Holmes. I reside at 1965 Winterville Road, Lot 2, here in Athens. I'm calling because I actually would like to know, what are you people going to do as far as the accusations I have brought forth against Athens-Clarke County? I have sat back. I've been waiting on phone calls and such, all during the pandemic. Hey, I never received a call or anything. Hey, now, hey, listen to me. Hey, I have been deprived of so much. 2 months ago, I turned 60 years old, April 2nd. I'm 85 to 90% blind. I had to go to the eye doctor today. Eye doctor tell me they cannot do anything pertaining to the glaucoma that I got. I'm having to live through all this. And now, hey, I'm having to accept the fact that I've been a resident of Athens-Clarke County for 40-something odd years. At one time, Hey, I consider Athens-Clarke County the most beautiful place on earth to live. But now I'm having fellow Athens-Clarke Countyers taking all this away from me. And then having the audacity to say that I'm a lie. With accusations that I brought forth to y'all. And this is preposterous. This is absolutely preposterous. You people know, without a doubt, that every accusation that when I was able to see, that I put on that piece of paper, it was true. As truthful can be. But you still got the audacity to laugh in my face and call me a lie. And even use the word being crazy. Hey, there's nothing crazy about me. Hey, and also, I just wanted to tell y'all people something. Hey, it's an honor for me to look upon myself today and see how proud I truly am to be a black man. It's an honor. It's an honor. With all that said, I'm through talking.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Thank you for calling in and participating. We hear you loud and clear, sir. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have people in the chamber here to speak on item 22.
Great. Thank you. Please step forward and say your name. Thanks for coming.
Hey, my name is Jocelyn Crumpton. I work at Athens Area Homeless Shelter. I'm here to advocate to be included in the interagency funding in the 2020 budget. Recently, the Flagpole wrote an article about how we were partially funded through ACC Gov money. And while we have been funded for emergency funds through the pandemic, we do not receive any local money. We do receive community development block grant, which is around $20,000 a year, but again, no local money. And I think it's very important that Clarke County prioritizes us as an agency because we are the leader nonprofit who is serving homeless families. Ultimately, we're fulfilling a service that the county would have to do without us, and we're filling in the gap. We're helping families stay together. Often, family homelessness is not the families you see flying a sign downtown or staying in the camps. While you have children in your household, you're extra vulnerable. So these are the families these are the homeless people you don't see. We keep families together that often have to stay separated, whether that's with auntie, grandma, and parents are living in a car or outside. I also want to speak to our expertise in the community. Most of our staff members have been on staff 5, 6, 7 years. If you look at that in the Homeless Service Agency, we have staff members who have been there very, very long times, and people now reach out to us, social workers in the community, housing partners, reach out to us for our expertise. And so ultimately, I'm just saying include us in your interagency funding. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for coming down. Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mary Kelly, and I reside at 458 Deering Street here in Athens. I'm here to advocate for Athens Area Homeless Shelter being included in the 2022 Athens-Clarke County budget. We all know that homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in our community is a major issue. Families with children are often the invisible face of this problem, as they're often doubled up or staying in a motel or sleeping in a car, or families are split up between different counties, different towns. They have to go stay with different relatives. And it's a poverty issue. As a school social worker for 18 years in Clarke County School District, and more recently with Foothills Charter High School, I've personally seen the impact both short and long term of this issue. As was mentioned earlier by another speaker, almost 1,000 children were identified and served as homeless during the 18-19 school year in Clarke County. Athens area homeless shelter is often a first stop for many seeking support, and indeed for many of us who are providing support, like school social workers. I regularly call on Athens area homeless shelter case managers for advice and guidance with respect to a particular situation, and to help me navigate the system because it's complicated and it changes a lot. Athens area homeless shelter have a proven track record, having been in our community since 1986. They are the experts in family homelessness. Athens area homeless shelter is in the unique position to house families in need of shelter through their Barber Street and Arch Village units. But what I like about them is that they're solution seeking and they help families have a long-term vision and establish goals to achieve ongoing independence with programs like rapid rehousing and ongoing trauma-informed case management and educationally focused transitional housing. So I'm just pleading with you all to please fund Athens area homeless shelter through the independent agency money in our 2022 budget. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. Moving back behind the rail to open up consideration of our consent agenda, items 7 through 16. Would any commissioner like to remove an item from consent?
I would like, Mayor Pro Tem, this is Commissioner Davenport. I would like to move item number 7.
Okay, number 7 removed. We'll take it up at the end after voting on consent. Anyone else would like to remove an item? Commissioner Houle.
Item 16, please.
Number 16 is off. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Attorney Drake, we are going to vote on consent agenda items 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Are there any ordinances you need to read, sir? You're muted. All right, go for it.
Number 8.
All right.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2021 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide funding for expenses related to unforeseen elections, including the general runoff for the district attorney seat and a special call election for the Office of Commission District 6 and unexpected processes of the statewide recount and risk-limited audit associated with the November general election in the Board of Elections Department and for other purposes. Number 9. An ordinance to amend the FY 2022 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council's Accountability Court Grant Program for expenses related to felony drug court, treatment and accountability court, veterans court, DUI drug court, and family treatment court, and for other purposes. And finally, number 10. An ordinance to amend the FY 2022 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Department of Juvenile Justice and the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council competitive grant program for expenses related to juvenile justice efforts to prevent recidivism and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion to consider these consent items. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Link. Commissioner Wright, anything to say?
Ready to vote.
All right, Commissioner Link, anything to say?
Let's go for it.
All right, all in favor, say up. Manager Williams?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Good, Manager Williams, what's up?
Yes, I'm sorry. I may have missed this, and I apologize. But Commissioner Davenport, did you pull?
He pulled number 7.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. All in favor of the agenda, consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, number 7 pulled the ordinance for Falling Shoals Drive parking prohibition. That item is now under consideration for a motion. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I would like to motion to hold this until our August 3rd meeting. We had a thank you to Sarah Jones at Falling Shoals Neighborhood Association Chair, as well as Blaine Williams and Traffic Engineering for coming out last Wednesday. The residents seem to want to have this. Just want to reevaluate this traffic study and see the options they have. I believe by August 3rd, they give us enough time to make an adequate vote.
Motion to hold until August 3rd. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Ready to vote.
Okay. Anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion to hold item 7 till August 3rd, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 16, the SPLOST 2020 Program Master Implementation Schedule, Additional Program Support Specialist position in Public Art is now under consideration. Would anyone like to make a motion?
So move.
So move for what?
To approve.
All right, there's a motion to approve on the table.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Houle. Commissioner Hamby, would you like to say anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Commissioner Houle?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just had a couple questions for Manager Williams. So, Manager Williams, could you clarify, once we approve this, what does it look like for the timeline of things to change specifically? I know we've talked a bit about the site selection criteria for the mental health recovery facility, but I'm sure that's one of many things that people will be interested in over time.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Houle. So this is really guidelines, if you will. It's not hard and fast. Some of these schedules will beat, and some will take a little longer depending on processes. With respect to the mental health facility, and that's something that this commission voted to have earlier in the process, and Commissioner Houle, I appreciate your diligence on serving that Advantage Board and also keeping this in front of us in the question. And I have clarified with Attorney Drake that Advantage does hold a special standing as a quasi-governmental entity that we could enter into an intergovernmental agreement. All that said, answering your question, we may not have to undergo a site selection process there. And I have been in contact with both the chair as well as the director. And I think the first step with that particular project would be for them to formally request, following up on their original SPLOST application and offering the property that I think they always intended for it to sit on, to come to staff, and then for us to bring that forward to y'all. So all that being said, for the public out there, when you look at this agenda item and the attachments that have these, pages of, schedules that we're anticipating, it's to help us understand the workflow, how to marshal those processes, to have some milestones to work towards. But at the end of the day, the commission makes the decision on those milestones, as they come to you. If you want more time, we'll do that. If you want us to try and move things forward, we can do that as well.
Great. Anybody against this motion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of approving item number 16, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving forward to old business, and I think we're moving expeditiously through these agenda items, so we'll have a good amount of time at the end to share with our colleagues what we've been working on. So we've got item number 17, the Old Jefferson Road Sanitary Sewage Pump Station concept. I'll entertain a motion on this item? Commissioner Myers?
I make a motion on the commission defined option that I put forth with the help of staff. Is that the right way to do it, parliamentarian? Edwards?
Sure. Do we have that?
Yeah, that was
Williams and Attorney Drake. Do you have that CDO? Are you clear on that?
We sent it out on Friday, and it's in the agenda report.
Manager Williams, are you clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Attorney Drake?
I may have missed it, to be honest with you. I apologize.
Okay.
But
Manager Williams, are you good on that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we've got a motion for a CDO on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hool. So we'll have Commissioner Myers, then we'll have Commissioner Hool, and then we can have any other input. Commissioner Myers, do you have anything you'd like to offer?
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone understands it, and I apologize to Commissioner Hool, Link, and Denson for not giving them a call and going over this, but we were all taking our Memorial Day weekend break seriously, or at least I was. So let me go over it here with you. It's really brief. What it's doing as a CDO is just adding the approval of approve the concept of a 14 kilowatt DC grid tiered solar array. As recommended by staff and noted in the memo that staff also sent out last Friday. And this was put forth after further discussions with the developer, which would require a $252,500 deposit for the project, as opposed to the originally recommended $250,000 deposit. And just to translate that, what that means is that Andrew Saunders and Mike Wharton went over this very carefully and redid the analysis of the power usage for that pump station. And it ends up being actually a little bit more, thus the increase in the deposit. They also then looked very carefully at the idea of not only having a solar array, which the developer agreed to and is welcoming being a leader in doing that kind of work in the community. And they looked into the idea of getting the battery backup, but at this time it's not economically really advantageous, partially because Georgia Power charges about $17,000 a year just to have their utility costs in there, even if you don't use any power at all. So it doesn't lower the cost that much in terms of the utility costs. And also because this is a very critical thing, having this sewage pump working, you want to make sure the technology is the best that it can be. And in another 10, 15, 20 years, when we have to replace this, hopefully that'll be all ready for a updated solar array and battery. Anyway, that's the summary of it, and I hope that makes sense to all the commissioners here, and I'm also, again, just thankful for staff for working this through, as well as to the developer who was eager to try to work with us on this and advance our 100% renewable resolution commitment here in Athens-Clarke County.
Great. Madam Clerk, the clock is ticking down from 5 minutes, and I believe it should be 3 minutes. So maybe on the next round, you can modify that to a 3-minute countdown. Commissioner Hool?
For the commission, it's 5 minutes.
No, madam. We adopted the rule change as 3 minutes. It's the same as public input.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Commissioner Hool.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I think Commissioner Myers pretty much covered it. I really want to thank her for her diligence in this. And the developers for being amenable to working with staff and her. I think staff put together something really great here. And where I especially want to commend Commissioner Myers is in digging into the details of some of these smaller consent agenda items often give us opportunities to leverage moments for a sustainable future, which is something that we really do need to be thinking about. So I do believe that despite that slowing us down a little bit here, I think it really is for the good of everyone. And I just want to express a lot of thanks to her and for staff turning something around very quickly.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Hool. Anyone against this motion? Commissioner Wright?
I just wanted to be clear, since the attorney didn't have time to review this, is that a reason?
Well, a motion to table until June 15th would be in order, and a motion to table would always be in order.
Yeah. Okay, I make a
members
substitute
want
motion.
to do that.
I make a substitute motion that we table it so that the attorney has time to review the
Table it until June 15th.
Till June 15th. Thank you.
Okay. A motion to table from Commissioner Wright until June 15th, seconded by Commissioner Thornton. Okay, Commissioner Wright, do you have anything else you'd like to add before Commissioner Thornton?
No,
okay, Commissioner Thornton. Would you like to say anything, Commissioner Thornton?
No, I'm going to wait for the attorney's input.
Okay. Anyone against tabling till June 15th?
Yes, I have.
Commissioner Denson.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to have a clarifying question to Commissioner Myers that I believe that the CDO was reviewed by somebody in the attorney's office. Is that correct?
I think we're gonna have to move that to Manager Williams, because he put that together and he also put a memo that he sent out to us. So my assumption was that they had taken care of all the details at that end. And let's see what Manager Williams has on that.
Well, yes, I do believe that we did send that out and copied all the appropriate folks on that when it went out on Friday.
Well, sure. I'm sure you did, Manager Williams, just making sure, but I feel like it's really Attorney Drake within your purview to answer. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm now seeing that I got an email from Blaine on Friday.
Sure.
But I apologize. I did not review it. I don't want to be disingenuous to the commission and
Sure.
say I didn't, but I did not review it. It came in on Friday at 4:43.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
I was CC'd on it. I mean,
Sure.
all the commissioners, and I was CC'd on it. So I didn't look at it. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you for your candor. So there's a motion on the table to table this item till June 15th. Anybody want to speak against the motion to table? Okay. All in favor of tabling until June 15th, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. This is tabled until June 15th. Thanks, everybody. Item number 18, the CY21 Pavement Maintenance Program, Roadway List Project Resolution and Contract Renewal. The floor is open for a motion.
I'll move.
Go ahead, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I'll move that we accept this. I just want to throw it out there. I have a quick question for the manager.
Let's see if you get a second first. Hold on.
Okay.
Do I hear a second? There's a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davenport. Go ahead, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for the manager. Is there any way we could get a list within the next month or so of streets that would qualify for our restriping or traffic calming policy that are on this list?
Manager Williams, could you help us with that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioner Link?
I think that's it. I just want to make sure we all are aware of that policy and the potential.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Link. Commissioner Davenport, anything to add?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
Is anyone against the motion to approve? Commissioner Houle.
I am totally in favor of the motion to approve here. I just want to clarify, I appreciate how expeditiously we're moving, but I did vote against the tabling. I'll avoid belaboring why, but in the previous motion.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please notate that Commissioner Houle voted against tabling item number 17.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone like to, thank you, Commissioner Houle. Anybody like to vote, anybody like to speak against the acceptance of the pavement maintenance motion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor of accepting item number 18, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 19, SPLOST 2018, Project 11 and Project 12, bike and pedestrian improvement programs on Barber Street. The floor is now open for a motion on this item. Mr. Denson.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion to the table.
Motion to table until what date would you say, sir?
Until our next voting session, which I believe is August 3rd.
August 3rd. Motion to table until August 3rd. Do I hear a second?
That. I'll second it.
A second from Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Denson, would you like to add something, sir? Speak to the motion.
Yes, thank you. I would like to see staff bring forward a fleshed out concept that incorporates the multi-use path on section 4 between Prince Avenue and Boulevard. After reviewing the public comments on the survey, the majority of residents preferred to have that multi-use trail, or at least some type of partitioned off bike and pedestrian infrastructure there. And so I would like staff to come back with a fleshed out concept for us to consider for that.
And I feel like that's part of your motion to table. So Commissioner Thornton, do you second that?
And that's exactly my motion.
Okay.
Exactly.
And Manager Williams, does that give you sufficient clarity and direction in the motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Thornton, do you have something you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak against the motion? Okay. Commissioner Houle, do you have another? Yes, sir. Go. You're recognized.
Clarifying question.
Yes,
when and how is Athens in Motion's committee going to be built into whatever gets revised here? And I ask just because my understanding is they've discussed this proposal in a series of meetings, and a lot of why we have them is so that we have a team of folks who are more expert than just about any of us, except maybe Commissioner Myers, to go over this sort of thing. And my understanding is what we have before us is kind of what they recommended. So.
Well, Commissioner Houle, according to the motion, staff would be directed to bring back some figures and a concept for that segment 4 piece.
So I guess what I'm asking is staff going to, or does Commissioner Denson, since you made the motion, do you envision a way that the Athens in Motion Commission would be incorporated into whatever staff goes over and brings back?
Well, it might be a good question. Yeah, it might be a good question for Manager Williams.
Well, so I think there is a concept for the segment 4 multi-use path as an alternate, and we should have the concept and cost estimates on that. If you'd like, I mean, we could come to the work session next Tuesday and present that concept. I mean, there's so many different concepts and nuances to all this, but maybe that's the best way for staff to present that to y'all and let you ask questions and see where you want to go from there.
That sounds good to me.
It doesn't have to take a lot of time. We can just go through it with you and make sure that you understand and answer your questions or collect your questions.
It is a complicated project with a big price tag, so I know I would feel comfortable with that.
Could we invite someone from the Athens in Motion Commission to be present as well, so they can kind of speak from their perspective to that in the meeting, in the work session?
Absolutely. We would probably invite the chair as the spokesperson for the group, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Great.
If we're doing that, that sounds great to me. Thanks.
Great. I saw anybody else want to speak to the motion. Okay, Commissioner Myers, yes.
Yeah, I'm supporting the motion. I'm really glad Commissioner Houle brought that up and bringing in the Athens in Motion. I did speak to several of the members today about this, and just a reminder that their original charter was looking at the area from Boulevard down to Dairy Pack or Chase Street, and they indeed added on the part from Prince Avenue to Boulevard. So I think that they are open to that. I do want to speak in favor, and just since I have this opportunity here, of what they did present us from Boulevard down to the bottom of Chase Street there. And I think I really want to take their recommendations very seriously in terms of having the 2-lane bike track there separate from the pedestrian area. I think one of the things that I've been thinking about in the short version here is that we are building this transportation network for bikes for transportation. And in terms of transportation, you're using the bikes to be going down. If you were going down towards General Time, you'd be going down a hill, picking up speed as you go from Boulevard down to the chicken plant, and then from the chicken plant down to Dairy Pack. And you'd be picking up speed and going 15 miles an hour, maybe more than that, 20 miles an hour. And that's one of the key reasons for keeping the bikes separate from the pedestrian area. And what we're trying to do here, again, is really build this bike infrastructure. 45% of car trips are less than 3 miles, and we want to give people an opportunity to get into something different. So I do want us to not lose their recommendation as we go through this, and to think about all the hard work. I think they met about 4 different times. So anyway, I support the tabling. I just wanted to get that in. Been thinking about it a lot today, and anyway, I look forward to discussing this more.
Okay, any other comments on the motion on the table, which is to table this item until August 3rd?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to save my comments for that date. I do have some concerns, but I understand how you're moving this, but I got some concerns for Commissioner Myers.
Okay. Okay.
I have
any other comments against the motion to table?
This is more about the proposal to present this at a work session next week.
A question for Manager Williams?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm particularly interested in understanding the impacts on private property and acquisition of right of way. If we were to go with the mixed use path and moving utility poles, the like kind of engineering aspects of it and private property impacts.
Manager Williams, will that be part of the work session?
Yes, and Commissioner Link, thank you. That's helpful to understand some of the things you want to hear about. We can talk about that.
Great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thornton again? Yes, ma'am.
I just want, this is for Manager Williams, and I want to be sensitive to your time. You know, when we tabled it, it seemed like it, it seems so. You're good with details for next week. I mean, we're talking about work for staff, so you're good for next week and not later.
Right. Manager Williams, are you going to be okay?
Yes, I'm good with staff presenting on it. We've brought several of these forth as you've asked, and there's been multiple options, and it gets very confusing. And I appreciate you thinking about staff, Commissioner Thornton. I just want to make sure that y'all questions are answered. You make an informed decision, and I think our staff's willing to cover that with you in a brief work session next Tuesday night.
Great. Thank you, Manager Williams. And I encourage my colleagues to email the manager any questions you'd like in particular to have addressed.
I will say,
go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I can vouch that our staff will be there. I'm not sure if somebody from the engineering firm that helped to put it together can be there. We can also ask and see if the AIM representative can be there. We'll do our best to get all the folks there, but we'll be there.
Great. Thank you, Manager Williams. All right. Anybody want to speak against the motion to table until August 3rd? Okay. Seeing none. All in favor of the motion to table this item until August 3rd, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. Item number 20, SPLOST 2020 Project 3 Classic Center Arena Proposed Project Concept. The floor is now open for a motion.
So moved to approve.
Second. I second.
Motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Hamby, do you have something, sir?
No, sir.
All right, Commissioner Myers.
No, I'm eager to see what comes next. I guess I do have something, having attended those meetings. I look forward to more details as we go into the next stage of construction plans and learning more about the sustainability efforts, the efforts for the everything else that goes into making those the best arena that we can have.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Anybody want to speak against the motion to approve this item? Okay. Seeing none. Maybe a question, Commissioner Lane?
I just have a question or a clarification.
Go ahead.
This is a concept approval. So from what I understand, the final architectural rendering is something that we'll approve later down the line.
Is that true, Manager Williams?
Yes. We don't usually come forth with renderings. I know that that was part of the work session. And maybe with such a big marquee project that was a good early tester. But the concept generally doesn't have the architectural look of the building. It's more when you get to preliminary design, which should be in August or later.
It'll come back.
So this is more representation of the massing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, this will come back to us. Any other?
Thank you.
You bet. Anyone want to speak against the motion to accept? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of accepting item number 20, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 21, nonprofit capacity building program and allocation to Advantage Behavioral. The motion, the floor is open. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the Advantage Behavioral reimbursement, but if we could delay the nonprofit decision making until after we have this budget discussions.
So maybe this is a motion to divide the question.
I don't know if we need to divide it. That's according to the
Well, you can approve options A and then table options B through E. Correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. That's what.
Consider that my second.
All right, go ahead for the record. State that again, Commissioner Hamby, please.
I'll approve. Motion to approve option A, and motion to hold option B, C, D, E, F. Am I done?
Until when? Hold until when, okay. Sir?
No time frame.
Okay, hold indefinitely. So motion to approve A and hold indefinitely items B through E.
And when you say, I mean, until we have our discussions and whether or not we want to move in the direction of this with these dollars, or
gotcha.
with any dollars, not necessarily these dollars.
Okay. Motion to table until time uncertain. Gotcha.
Thank you.
I will second with the one amendment, or I guess a point of clarification. Regarding option E, authorizing mayor and ACC Gov staff to execute all related contracts and documents. With that, I feel like that does refer or could refer to the Advanced Behavioral Health funding as well as the nonprofit capacity building pilot.
Yeah.
Can I get clarification on that, whether or not we need to approve that option as well, or if that needs to be held as well?
Yeah. I think we ought to just go ahead and keep E in there for a housekeeping purpose. Do you agree, Attorney Drake?
I do agree. I do agree.
He does. Okay. So then the motion is to approve A and E and hold for a time uncertain B, C, and D.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Commissioner. I'm sorry. Hold on.
May I add
hold on. Commissioner Hamby made the motion, so he goes, and then you'll go. Go ahead, Commissioner Hamby.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Parker.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my reasoning behind wanting to hold these other options and part of the agenda item. I heard a lot of really great feedback from my fellow commissioners during our agenda setting session with regards to interest in expanding the I can't say this phrase, nonprofit capacity building pilot, particularly, scoping it around indigent services seems kind of limiting. It's also not really congruent with the other types of activities that we would like to set these nonprofits up to do through CDBG funding. I think is something I heard a number of commissioners speak to. And then on my side of things, given some feedback I've received from the manager's office regarding, for example, youth development funding and being able to work with nonprofits in the community that are doing that kind of work, if we engage in a competitive process for that funding, and that is an option available to us. I don't see why that would be left out of this, why that would necessarily have to be left out of the scope of activities eligible for this particular program. And so I just wanted to give some concrete pieces of feedback on what I personally would like to see and what I feel like others have expressed at the work session for further crafting and refining this agenda item before it comes back to us, since I'm not sure when we will have another opportunity to deliver that feedback. But yeah, expanding the scope of eligible activities would be of interest to me, as well as another thing I brought up at the work session was engaging the university about, I'm actually not seeing in this agenda item, though it was in the work session, about those who would be giving the training. But I would like us to engage in conversation with the university about potentially donating those services, given some of the dynamics between the university and the community that may necessitate the work of these nonprofits. But yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Would anybody like to speak against the motion of approving A and E and holding the others? Anybody like to speak against? Okay, I see Commissioner Thornton.
I still have really problems with, and others also. And my question is directed to Manager Williams. Those funds are specifically from indigent dollars. Is that correct? For the nonprofit development. Are those just designated for indigent dollars? I just want to be sure.
Manager Williams, the source of funding for the nonprofit pilot, are those indigent funds?
Well, and the resiliency package, and as we went through, and Attorney Drake can certainly speak to this, with respect to the gratuities clause, we did channel that towards indigent services.
Right.
So if it is used in a different format, the gratuities clause is still going to apply if it's local funds. The mental health and social service enhancement funding is also a general fund balance as well. So that will, I think, be a necessary part of all this. That would be a qualifier on what we could, if it's providing direct services to individuals.
Right. The attorney earmarking that to indigent services gets us out of the gratuities clause. Correct, Attorney Drake?
That's correct. If we could I would recommend we do a service agreement to make it so that they're providing a service that we would otherwise have to provide versus just giving money. So get around the gratuities clause. Yes. Right. And we can draft that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, then my question still, now it's even cloudier to me, because if that's the case, I'm wondering why we have, or is this something that we now, is this something new that we've learned? Because this has been, we've danced around the gratuitous clause every time we try to help nonprofits help other people. So is this a new piece of knowledge that we have, or could we have done this before?
I don't think it's a new piece of knowledge. I mean, I think it's consistent the way what I've always understood. It was just in the context of giving away, I don't use aid. We have to be careful in how we do that. And I don't think we can do that. But if you're talking about providing
you've
some type of service, that's a different story. But you got to look at each thing on an individual basis. I mean, is there one? I'd be happy to discuss, Commissioner Thornton, if you have one in particular you're thinking about.
Yeah, I have some. So is it a matter of whoever's doing the service? Is it a matter of signing an MOU or something like that makes that happen? I'm just trying to figure
Certainly
that
need more, we need more than just an MOU. It would be a agreement to provide a specified service, just like we do with the CBDG agreements.
Well, and it helps. And it helps if the entity, if we make a direct appropriation to have a sole source contract where that provider is basically the only one who could provide that service. Otherwise, we get kicked into the RFP.
That's correct.
And I think that's the, Commissioner Thornton, to answer your question directly, the earlier awards of funding were all done through competitive process. And as you have brought up and other commissioners have brought up along the way, that there were smaller nonprofits that may have lacked the capacity, as it's called, to compete against these others. And so this was an alternative program to try and target those that have not been able to compete and allow them real time to be given funds to do some good in the community, but also enter into a training phase. That was the idea.
And I would also add this: it's not as to sit here and just. It helps me to understand exactly what the service we're talking about is, and to make just so. I mean, I don't want to just say that we can do that in every case. I mean, we can't. But I mean, if we can legitimately and justifiably argue they're providing some service we otherwise would provide as a government, I think that we can justify giving funds to a nonprofit for that purpose, versus giving them funds just to give away that aren't CDBG funds. I think that's a different thing, for direct aid, for example, because we can't give away direct aid, unless it's CDBG funds. And that may seem confusing, Commissioner Thornton, and it is to a degree, but I have to look at each one. And Commissioner Williams and I have talked about this, how we might try and legitimately do what the commission wants us to do.
Well,
I don't want you to think this is just opening the door up any of the commissioners to just be able to do whatever we want to.
Well, and that's my point. And I guess for tabling this,
right.
I will have, you can talk to all of us ahead of time and, give us examples. That's so tabling this, that's my whole point, that it's not really clear. And you might have more clarity if you have. So I'm glad to talk to you or anybody else, Attorney Drake.
Yep.
Right. All right. The motion on the table right now is to table items B, C, D, and pass items A and E. Would anybody like to speak against that motion? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think what I'm uncomfortable with is the indefinite suspension of this proposed program. Tabling it from tonight makes sense to me, but this program I feel is staff responding to what we've asked them to work on, since I joined this body in the retreats. And that reflects what we've heard from a lot of folks in the community. And I think maybe there are some details to revisit or tweak. Maybe there are some parameters to clarify around how a program like this could work. But I'm uncomfortable with indefinitely tabling this, and then it just kind of goes away. So instead of indefinitely tabling, I'm asking for maybe an amendment to table the nonprofit capacity building program to, say, September 7th. Sounds like our August 3rd meeting is already packed out. That gives everybody in HCD and on this body time to think through and discuss what we'd like to see come forth that could look different.
So there's a motion
to discuss the rescue plan funds.
So there's a motion to table until September 7th. A motion to amend the motion to table to make it a table until September 7th. Is there a second?
I would accept that amendment. Yeah, a second.
Okay, there's a second.
I'm fine if that's what y'all want to do.
Okay, so Commissioner Houle, go ahead and speak to the motion, and then Commissioner Parker can. Go ahead, Commissioner Houle, if you need to.
I'm learning the way you approach the parliamentary procedure is a bit different than Mayor Gertz. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think I pretty much already explained my rationale.
Okay, Commissioner Parker?
Nothing to add.
Okay, the motion on the table is to accept A and E and to table B, C, D, and E until September 7th. Manager Williams.
I understand the tabling. If is it to come back in its current form? I haven't heard.
Maybe we could do a work session in August, put it on an August work session and talk a little more about it.
I think some feedback from y'all would be very helpful on what direction you'd like to go.
I can speak to that if that's helpful, since I made the motion.
Sure.
For the date. The last work session we had on this, which was fairly recently, included, I think, a lot of positive feedback. So I do think another work session could be helpful. And I also think maybe after we've discussed the American Rescue Plan funds, which I know this body is planning to do, to figure out how those could fit in, because there is some funding there to leverage that might not be from the pot of money we're discussing here. And then this pot of money could maybe go to something else. But nonetheless, the program can move forward. Does that give enough clarity, Manager Williams, to what I'm intending?
Yeah. Any more input for Manager Williams to craft a work session information? Go ahead, Commissioner Thornton.
I really think that, I do have specific questions that I will get to the manager and the attorney. We're about work session out, at least I am. And I think that if we got a deadline, whatever we need by that deadline, we should have it to the manager. We're creating more work for staff, and I thought that's what we were trying to back away from, so a little bit. But I'll go along with it just so I could get some clarity, because it's not clear. And I think the September deadline gives all of us time to do our due diligence and get some questions answered that can be presented and move. And yes, the American Rescue Plan funding is another issue too. So, I just think that we're meeting and work sessioning for those of us, that's a lot easier than some of us.
I don't know about that. All right, Commissioner Parker.
I know from me.
Yeah, it ain't easy for me. I'm speaking for myself.
Well,
Go ahead, Commissioner Parker.
Hit dogs for holler.
All right.
I just wanted to further refine my earlier suggestion, because I used youth development as an example, but I think looking at our consolidated plan for HCD and in CDBG, and what activities are prioritized under that we could also make part of this, the services offered through this program, so that we are setting up nonprofits to be competitive for that federal funding in the future. So expanding that outside of the scope of youth development to those other priority areas.
Okay. And to follow up a little to try and help clarify for all the commissioners.
Yeah.
When we talk about youth development, well, certainly that is something that our existing leisure services department might do, but we may not have the capacity to do that on a certain level. So we might partner with a nonprofit, enter into a service contract for them to offer that program. I think that would be a perfectly legitimate expenditure of these funds and not get us into the gratuities clause. Does that make sense? How we count, how we structure this sometimes is important to making sure we're in the right footing. And I'd be glad to talk more specifically with individual commissioners about different programs you might have in mind.
Great. Thank you, Attorney Drake.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're about ready to vote. All in favor of approving item A and E and tabling B, C, D until September 7th, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Okay. Item 22, still on the agenda here, adoption of our operating and capital budgets.
Make a motion to hold until June 15th.
The motion to hold till June 15th sounds about right from Commissioner Hamby. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Hamby, anything?
Nope.
Commissioner Parker, anything?
Nope. Are we having quick question? Are we having a budget work session next Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
So there is no additional opportunity for public comment.
Well, they can on the 15th, of course.
They can on the 15th?
Yeah. That'll be a voting. We're going to vote then, so there'll be public input.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Denson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And my question is backing up Commissioner Parker's questions. I want to ensure that we can have, will City Hall be open? We've had special called sessions where I've thought we're going to have public input, and it turned out we didn't. So I want to ensure that on the 15th we vote to adopt the budget, that there is able to be public input in City Hall and also virtually.
Manager Williams?
Yes, I'll clarify that with the PIO and finance staff.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Houle, did you have anything?
That covered it.
Great. All right. All in favor of tabling adoption of the budget till June 15th, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Manager Williams, did you have something, sir?
Yeah, sorry. I need to exonerate our very good attorney, Judge Drake.
Do that during the manager's report.
Yes, sir.
We got some momentum here. Number 23, community benefits agreement for a proposed tax allocation district funding request for 2400 Lexington Road. I believe this got moved off the agenda, is my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding as well from the mayor before the meeting that this was tabled until next.
Let's just to be good housekeepers. Let's just go ahead and table. I'll consider a motion to table.
Yeah. I'll make the motion.
All right, motion from Commissioner Thornton. Do I hear a second?
Second, but I'd like to comment on it.
Second from Commissioner Hamby. Commissioner Thornton, do you have anything?
I'm probably no, I'll save it.
Okay, Commissioner Hamby.
So I just want to comment just for future and parliamentary procedures. And I'll be quick about this. And I'll resend these out, the rules of the commission. So, and I'm trying to, I know we have sort of separate entities. You have the executive, the legislative, and judge. But when stuff is put on the agenda at the agenda setting, it becomes sort of final at that point based on the rules that I'm reading. The judge I'll resend these, but once it's out there in the public, the only body that can take it off the public agenda is this commission. So I know in the past we've kind of let mayors just take stuff off the agenda as though they can, but really once the agenda is out there in the public realm on the Friday before we vote, it's up to this body to make a motion like you've done, Mayor Pro Tem, or ask for a motion, Mayor Pro Tem, to remove that item from the agenda. So just for future reference, y'all.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Hamby. Anyone against the motion to table this item? Okay, seeing none, let's call the vote. All in favor of tabling this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. All right, number 24, new business. Consider under suspension of the rules. Do I hear a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 24, 2021 Georgia DOT Local Maintenance Improvement Grant Safety Action Plan application submittal. The floor is open for the consideration of this item. Do I hear a motion?
There is an ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead and read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2021 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Georgia Department of Transportation Local Maintenance Improvement Program Grant, LMIG, for a variety of roadway improvements and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion. Oh, hold on. Motion to approve, please say.
So moved.
All right. Motion to approve from Commissioner Thornton. Second from Commissioner Link. Commissioner Thornton, do you have anything to say?
No. No.
Okay. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really glad to see us applying for these funds, especially when it comes to the potential for traffic calming in our community.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Link. Anyone opposed? All right, let's call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Go get that grant money, Manager Williams. Item number 25, resolution in reference to the Coronavirus Local Recovery Fund. Attorney Drake, does this have something for you?
It does not, Mayor Pro Tem. This is just authorizing the mayor to sign the agreements that we have to sign with the Department of Treasury in order to be able to accept these funds.
Thank you for the clarification, sir. The table's open for a motion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Link, do you have anything?
No, go get it.
Commissioner Parker?
Nothing to add.
All right. Anyone want to speak against this motion? Okay. Seeing none, let's call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item number 28, ordinance for 17th declaration related to COVID-19. Attorney Gregg, do you have anything on this?
I do. An ordinance for the 17th declaration of a local state of emergency related to COVID-19 and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. The floor is open for a motion. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Was that Commissioner Denson? All right.
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion from Denson, second from Link. Denson, do you have anything, sir?
I do not.
Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I just want to remind folks that this pandemic is over and only 40% of Athenians have been vaccinated. UGA has dropped its mask ordinance. We have no clear idea as to how many UGA students, who make up about 30% of our community, will be vaccinated. They're not requiring vaccinations. So I just want to encourage everyone to continue to follow the CDC guidance and, continue to use care and wear your masks in crowds and where you're unsure of the vaccination status of other folks. And I want to encourage businesses and entertainment venues to encourage folks to be vaccinated and don't be afraid to host events where you require vaccination status.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Link. Would anybody like to speak against this motion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Okay, now we have public input on any other items. I don't see anybody online for input. Is there anyone in the chamber for public input on any item? Thank you. Okay, report from the mayor. Nothing from me. Report from the manager. Manager Williams, take it away, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Going back to the earlier item with regards to the CDO for the pump station project, I did go back after our conversation and look, and Attorney Drake was not copied on the email. I know I responded to one that a group of folks were on. I thought he was on and it wasn't. That was my mistake. So I own that, and I apologize to y'all. And Attorney Drake did not miss an email, as was indicated earlier. You'll see the purchasing report as part of the agenda for items purchased over $10,000, as well as an allocation of contingency funding in the amount of $12,000 for the coroner's office for some extra operating expenses. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Manager Williams, for the clarification. And any report from the auditor? Ms.
No,
Bennett?
sir, I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Any report, Mr. Attorney Drake?
No, thank you. I don't have anything this evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's receive input from our colleagues. Let's start with Commissioner Davenport, District Number 1.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would just like to congratulate Taylor Pass for his wedding, getting married, tying the knot. Start to constituents about delaying town hall. May has been one of those crazy months, and hopefully I'll be able to catch up with emails and phone calls. And if I have not returned any, please forgive me. But happy Pride Month to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. Commissioner Parker. You're muted, madam. Can we hear you? Go ahead, try to talk. All right, we'll come back to you. Commissioner Link?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, we can hear you now. Go for it.
Okay, sorry about that. I just want to let people know about two events this Saturday. The ADC is having a resource fair for youth organizations at the Miriam Moore Center at noon. So come through, get some food, learn about different programs you can get your kids involved in. As well, the 4th Street Village Attendance Association, newly formed, is having a second meeting Saturday at 3:30. meeting by the mailboxes. So I hope people will come out to either of those events. And that is all.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Mr. Link.
Yeah, I just want to continue to thank everybody for their well wishes. I've been extremely distracted caring for my mother, who was hit by a pickup truck as a pedestrian in a crosswalk not quite 2 months ago. Needless to say, this has reinforced my commitment to traffic calming and pedestrian safety in our own community. So I know we've had a couple items on the agenda tonight that address that, and I look forward to having more items like that. There's a lot we can do in our community, and I really credit my mother's life with being saved by the fact that this car that hit her was traveling on a road that had been traffic calmed. So there are real lives at stake, and this is very personal to me at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Link, and know that our thoughts are with you always.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wright was not feeling well this evening. She had to leave early. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just two things. First, I want to thank Transportation and Public Works staff for quickly getting to repainting yellow curbs out in Normaltown on some streets where we were having some parking and access issues and complaints. And like always, that work got done very quickly, and I always appreciate the expediency that staff gives when we have requests from constituents. My last item is related to the pandemic, and a lot of this is really noticing that we have residents, many of them like showing up in person to speak, but we are not there. I would like us, hopefully after our break that we have coming up in July, for staff to work on having and the mayor to call for this, but having us start the transition back to the City Hall chamber to be able to meet behind the rail. And also, I'd say that we should have the policy of requiring all individuals who are behind the rail to be vaccinated before doing so. But I think it's time for us to get back to doing that. I think it'll help us working. Obviously, still making possible virtual access in any way that we can for those who might need to, and also just in case things get worse, that we can easily transition back. But I think it's time. And also with that, doing that work, like Commissioner Link brought up, we need to find any way we can to encourage people to get vaccinated. And we need to get really creative here. Athens-Clarke County's numbers are behind the state averages for people who have gotten any shots and people who are fully vaccinated. We are, I think, like 10 percentage points behind Oconee County. This is unacceptable. We got to do whatever we can. And I honestly, I feel like that the county could be doing more. We could step up and find some creative solutions, which I've talked about in the past, to get people vaccinated. We've done so much to get to this point with the mask mandate and the shelter in place, and it's done great work. But this is the last big, huge step we have to take to actually get out of this pandemic. So I want us to be as creative as we were through this pandemic to get us out of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Denson. Commissioner Hull.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Echo Commissioner Davenport. Happy Pride Month to all my fellow L's, G's, B's, T's, Q's, pluses, my fellow theys and thems. Got a Stonehenge ice cream social. You might recall was rained out a couple months ago. We'll be there rain or shine thanks to Leisure Services having a big tent on reserve. It's going to be on Saturday, June 12th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Stonehenge Community Center and Basketball Courts, 135 Alterstone Drive, right in the heart of that community. I know that community is among many who suffered some heavy losses lately, and so we'll be there to talk about those things and also hopefully bring some levity and share some lightness together at the same time. There's a lot of folks collaborating to make this happen, so thanks to Leisure Services and TPW for coming out, CCSD, Chesson Community, Georgia Legal Services will be there to offer some tenants' rights expertise, and there will be a mobile vaccine clinic. So hopefully we can help chip away at those numbers, because please, everybody, get vaccinated. We need that. I also echo my colleagues. I'd love to get back in person. We all need to be vaccinated to do that. I have two requests of the mayor, who's not here, but I guess to enter him into the record, I'd like to reiterate my request for a living wage policy to be assigned to one of our committees. that would apply to employees of ACC as well as institutions we partner with, to have a policy that would cover all employees, including temporary and seasonal employees, and addressing labor of contractors and subcontractors. And I'd also like to ask the mayor, who is not currently here, so maybe Mayor Pro Tem, you can pass these along, to assign impact fees for consideration. My understanding is it's been many years since this body's looked at that, and many of the faces here have changed. But a way for development and redevelopment projects to provide an opportunity for community benefits that might happen nearby, even if not directly on site. So impact fees and living wage policy. And then the last thing to share on the public record, all my colleagues here have gotten an email. Want to thank the many folks who have dedicated a lot of passion and time to the collaborative hard work of addressing homelessness and housing insecurity in our community, and who have collaborated on a resolution to address homelessness with immediacy and strategic planning. I'm looking forward to that, hopefully moving forward after we can strengthen it through discussions tomorrow and Thursday. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Houle. Thank you to my colleagues for an expeditious meeting. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking with me through the whole thing. And I echo Commissioner Denson. I want to help. We got to put our heads together and get creative how we can encourage more vaccination. Absolutely. I hate seeing that we're a laggard in this county. Kudos to staff at TPW for meeting with residents and I off Rutherford Street. It's always a great experience for me to meet with staff and get to know folks serving this community full time, because of course we're just part time, right, folks? Yeah. But really great crew of folks. Also, tip of the hat to the Athens-Clarke County Police. Some of y'all may have read some months ago the shop that my wife and I own was broken into, and some items were stolen, and the police actually were able to recover those items in a very professional manner. So thank you to the Athens-Clarke County Police Department for helping us through that crisis. And next up, Commissioner Myers.
Hey, I just really would echo all my fellow commissioners said on Happy Pride Day, I'm going to get to all those emails, on let's get back to in-person meetings and all of us vaccinated, to all of the many good works that all of you are putting forth. I realize now that we won't have another public time to make this sort of general statement again till August. So I do want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners during this first 6 months to help me through, make me feel comfortable with all these squares in front of the computer. And, you know, again, I'll look forward to being there in person with everyone else. And in case we don't have just, you know, happy June and July to everyone. And let's come back invigorated after that budget. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop. Bye.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Thornton. The floor is yours, madam. I believe you're muted.
Muted. I am
There
muted.
you go for it.
Here I go. I want to, I know I sent my fellow commissioners about the Juneteenth Stop the Violence march, and that is being coordinated by Rashid, Malcolm, Brian Gant, and Sheila and Sharon, the twins. And this is stemming from the gang violence that we have been seeing. And I think when we have a couple of weeks and there's no shooting, or you don't hear about a shooting, because there probably is a shooting, but you don't hear about it. But when we don't hear about it, we forget how urgent this issue is in our community. So I want to put it back out there. It would be nice if commissioners would be interested in the march. Like I said, I'm not coordinating it, but I am supporting it. So I do want to put that back out there, the gang prevention stuff back on radar. I know we're having a meeting with homeless providers coming up, but again, I want to put that back on the radar. These are two top issues that are just as important to me as our outreach about COVID. I don't really see a difference. Both of all three of those issues can kill you. So I do want to put that back out there. But again, June 10th event. And I do want to thank staff for coming out, meeting with my residents. It is making I'm not on Facebook anymore. So I am on Nextdoor, and I am liking the comments, the questions, and the input. But I do want to thank staff for meeting with my residents in the community. It really makes a difference. There's a lot of needs we can't address right now, but just knowing the process, or that we have folk in the government that cares. And so it makes a difference. So our next community meeting is going to be in the Freeman and Kenwood area. We just met out in Smoky Road. We've met in Pulaski. And Manager Williams has been diligent about getting back with me with the concerns that they have raised. So we just need to get out there more. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. And I believe Commissioner Hamby also had to attend to something. Thank you, Commissioner Hamby. Go ahead, sir.
I make a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous consent. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.